In the world of true crime streams and late night takes, lives a chubby baker chasing all his breaks. He fires up the mic every single day, tries to make it better in his own sweet way. The internet's a wild ride, full of twists and turns, but he keeps it rolling every lesson learned. Broken Baker, whoa, the little YouTuber who tries every day. Broken Baker, whoa, keeps on pushing forward, come what may. Good deeds shine on through the noise. Every effort moves him forward. Broken Baker, lighten up the chaos. He's just trying to share the facts and fun, diving into stories from dawn till done. From big cases to community chats, he brings the energy, no holding back. Broken Baker, whoa, the little YouTuber who tries every day. Broken Baker, whoa, keeps on pushing forward, come what may. Good deeds shine on through the noise. Every effort moves him forward. Broken Baker, keep on baking anyway. He's the Broken Baker, a real content creator, sharing stories from everywhere. Yo, Baker! Broken Baker! Oh, every day he's out there streaming. Broken Baker! Oh, true crime tales and hot takes beaming. Good deeds shine on through the noise. Every effort moves him forward. Broken Baker, he's the one.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are, what if any you might be, and welcome to a lot of reading, because I was thinking about the mega motion that will be argued on Monday, and it's 88 pages. It's a long one. It's written by Bederow, so it's an easy read, but it's still a lot of stuff, and I don't know how fresh it is in everyone's memories. I can't even remember if we read all of it while when it was new, when it just came out. I think I'm not 100% sure, but just so we are all fresh in memory when it comes up on Monday, because they're not gonna argue every single page, every single thing. We know how it goes. The judge will say, well, I read this, I read that. And that's why I thought it's Friday, nothing else is going on but the rent. So maybe let's deep dive a little bit into 88 pages of Bederow letters. So it's going to be a little while. It's going to be sore on the throat, but hey, who cares? Let's see what arguments they will come up with. It's the motion to dismiss. This is written by Bederow on behalf of Aidan. So I remember it as pretty good. I know, of course, the foreskins and everyone else says that, oh, he doesn't understand anything and he uses the wrong font. But normally I look more at the arguments he makes in his papers, and I think he normally has really good arguments. Is this the motion that took Melanie days because of the links? Yes, we will not be going to the hyperlinks and reading all of that stuff. Oh, and we just started a thunderstorm. That's nice. So we won't be going in and reading on all the underlying web pages and watching all the videos that they mention. If you haven't done that by now, you know what you have to do on your own over the weekend. You can really easily find a link to the motion on the Twits. So if you want to link heavy, use the weekend for that one. You can also do that. Go and watch Melanie hit all the links. Still, stay here for a bit and then spend the weekend with Melanie. I could find nothing better. Well, I'm going to hang out with my family. A little better than Melanie Little, but not a lot. Oh. If there is an available Zoom link, I will stream it. Yes. Well, unless there's an available camera link, but whatever link there potentially is, we will be trying to get up and running on that one. We were looking around for a link the other day, and even Aidan was told there's no Zoom link to that hearing they had the other day. So again, the judges are weird, and they are little kings, sadly. Well, it's more than welcome. Oh, Valhalla is here. Good morning, Melanie. Melanie. Why I'm saying Melanie and Valhalla at the same time? After the phone hearing, wonder if Bederow and Bradel should get any communications between Cosgrove and Morrissey, since they shouldn't be communicating. I would expect, after hearing that he was in communications with the Commonwealth, who he has to not be in communications with because he's a special prosector, because they are conflicted out, that they, of course, instantly said, oh, if there is any communications between them. But I don't think this is this is kind of a conspiracy theory. But a lot of people are saying it kind of feels like Cosgrove is trying to set it up so he will be thrown off the case, because mentioning that he's in contact with the party that he's not allowed to be in contact with, that's a big no-no. But I think he's an old idiot who took a paycheck. He probably used to be a decent lawyer and judge back in the day, but at the same time, I think he's gotten too old to do his job. But Valhalla has become my favorite guy on the tubes. Well, then we can't blame you for good taste then. He stooped way too low in that phone hearing. Yeah, it wasn't a good day. I think that may be accurate. I don't think he wants to be the one that does it, but he wants to. Again, if a conflict arises that they have to, but at the same time, what would he have to gain other than he would save face that it wasn't him who lost the case? Or I have a hard time seeing a lawyer acting in that way. It's I don't have a lot of faith in the guy, but at the same time, I have a little bit of a problem seeing that he would deliberately try and hurt a case because he's getting paid for it. Thank you, Christina, for 5 gifted memberships to the channel. So nice of you. And I needed to go over on this one and go in live chat. And then I can see that Mac Works Nights, Blessed Be Ma, Naomi Howe, and Anita Reality Check was the one who was gifted by the lovely Christina. Thank you so much, Christina. Doolin's face when AJ said, "Hasn't this run its course? He's over it too." Doolin is very expressive, but at the same time, Doolin can just rule. That was loud. I don't know if you can hear the thunder. But Doolin sits there and he makes all of these faces and he looks like he's tired of the world. And then I'll take it under consideration. I'll make a ruling. And sometimes it takes 2 minutes, and sometimes it's, oh, I forgot we had a hearing, because now we are finally getting the ruling. Again, he's the judge. He can just slap it down if he's tired of it. He moves so slow. I've been in the courtroom with him, and after one of Aidan's hearings, I walked behind him going down the stairs. He's an old guy. I don't know how old he is. But it's going to be a longer read, so let's start. This is Commonwealth v. Aidan Kearney. Mark Bederow, an attorney admitted to practice law in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, pro hoc vice, affirms under penalty of perjury as follows. And then it's just his that he is his attorney. And he's writing the affidavit in support of Mr. Kearney's motion for dismissal of the indictment pursuant to Commonwealth v. Odell and its progeny due to the prosecution's impairment of the integrity of the grand jury proceedings, or in the alternative for the granting of an evidentiary hearing in connection with the motion. B. Dismissal of the indictments pursuant to Bridgman v. District Attorney for Suffolk District and its progeny due to the Commonwealth's pervasive failure to disclose specific requested Brady material, Giglio material, and automatic discovery under Rule 14 of the Massachusetts Rules of Criminal Procedure, or in the alternative for an evidentiary hearing in connection with the motion. Disqualification of Special Prosecutor Ken Mello pursuant to Rule 3.7 of the Massachusetts Rule of Professional Conduct due to Mr. Mello being an essential defense witness at trial, or in the alternative, an evidentiary hearing in connection with the motion. Background. Mr. Kearney, known by the moniker Turtle Boy, is a credentialed, independent journalist with large platforms on social media and YouTube. He writes articles and regularly hosts live YouTube shows, which generally are 2 to 3 hours in length and address numerous topics of public concern. Mr. Kearney's YouTube videos are categorized sequentially as numbered episodes, each of which contains a unique title summarizing the content of his show. Episode numbers and titles of Mr. Kearney's show are displayed prominently on his YouTube page and may be viewed by anyone, irrespective of whether they subscribe to his channel. Mr. Kearney's investigative reporting has exposed numerous examples of fraud, corruption, and wrongdoing. He often intersperses his journalism with elements of comedy, satire, and activism. Not surprisingly, many people who become the subject of his reporting and content don't like him. Like I said, he's an asshole. I like him as an asshole, but at the same time, hey, a lot of people don't. Hey, Mo Raiders, and thank you, Mo, for the raid. In April 2023, Mr. Kearney began researching the Karen Read case, which at the time appeared to be a straightforward, open and shut vehicle homicide case. After he reviewed publicly filed court documents and acquired information from sources he generated, Mr. Kearney quickly realized that the case against Ms. Read was far more nuanced than had been publicly reported up to that point. Since he first delved into the circumstances surrounding how John O'Keefe, a Boston police officer, ended up dead on the front lawn of fellow Boston police officer Brian Albert shortly after Ms. Read dropped him off at Mr. Albert's Canton home in her Lexus SUV, Mr. Kearney's reporting and content creation has centered on his unabashed belief that Norfolk County's DA's office, the DA, and the Massachusetts State Police, MSP, framed Ms. Read with assistance from Jennifer McCabe, members of the Albert family. Footnote: Ms. McCabe's sister Nicole is married to Brian Albert, and others who participated in Mr. O'Keefe's death and or helped cover it up. On April 18th, 2023, Mr. Kearney published his first article about the Reed case, Canton Cover-Up Part 1, Corrupt State Trooper Helps Boston Cop Cover Up Murder of Fellow Officer, Frame Innocent Girlfriend. Very long headlines. Mr. Kearney's initial Canton cover-up report was primarily sourced by the April 12, 2023, 90-plus pages court filing from Ms. Reed's defense, which consisted of an affidavit from her attorney, supported by numerous exhibits, including police reports and data from an extraction report of Ms. McCabe's cell phone. Mr. Kearney reported that Brian Albert, Ms. McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Chris Albert, Colin Albert, and Julie Nagel was definitely in the house at the time Mr. O'Keefe was killed, and that all of them witnessed the murder or are aware of it and have said nothing. Most of them were not questioned by now terminated and disgraced Trooper Michael Proctor. Mr. Kearney's article highlighted the Reed defense claim that Ms. McCabe Googled "Huss Long to die in the cold" at 2:27 a.m. on January 29, 2022, which, if true, was damning evidence of her complicity in and/or knowledge of the circumstances surrounding Mr. O'Keefe's death. Most of the individuals criticizing Mr. Kearney's April 18, 2023 article for their alleged involvement in Mr. O'Keefe's death or its cover-up later became the allegedly intimidated witnesses in the indictments against Mr. Kearney. Indictments related to Mr. Kearney's purported intimidation of Mr. Proctor and Sergeant Yuri Bukaki was later dismissed by the court. Mr. Kearney's well-sourced, dogged reporting and outspoken support of Ms. Reed's innocence lit the spark that quickly ignited the Free Karen Reed movement, a phenomenon which galvanized worldwide support for Ms. Reed and relentless, blistering criticism of the DA, MSP, and the civilians whom Mr. Kearney and many others believe concealed the truth about Mr. O'Keefe's death. Mr. Kearney's coverage of the Reed case, which to date includes 528 Canton cover-up articles and hundreds of video episodes, virtually overnight transformed a mundane Massachusetts criminal case into perhaps the most high-profile and scandalous murder prosecution in the United States in decades. I think Murdoch, the Adelsons, there's some out there that's at least on the same level. Mr. Kearney's frequent reporting on the Reed case has played a substantial role in the public's loss of confidence in the integrity and competence of Norfolk County's law enforcement, an ongoing scandal that continues to plague the DA and MSP in the aftermath of Ms. Reed's acquittal. Footnote. Mr. Kearney's exposure of the DA and MSP's misconduct in the Reed case has complicated the murder case against Brian Walsh and Miles King. It has led to significant criticism of the DA's investigation into the death of Sandra Birchmore, which was classified as a tragic suicide, but which many believe was a whitewash. In 2024, the U.S. Attorney's Office thoroughly rejected the DA's findings and indicted former police officer Matthew Farwell for Ms. Birchmore's murder. But for Mr. Kearney's reporting, disgraced former Trooper Proctor would still be investigating serious cases for the MSP. Other members of the MSP, including Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully, the lead investigator against Mr. Kearney, and Sergeant Bukaki, would have been publicly disciplined for their misconduct, and the Norfolk DA's State Police Detective Unit, SPDU, wouldn't have been dismantled due to their misconduct in the Reed case. Sorry. I dag det krysses fødselsdag. Hurra, hurra, hurra. Hvor smiler hun, hvor er hun glad. Men den dag er også for hjem. Smiler hun, hvor er hun glad. Now I forgot my own lyrics again. Jesus Christ. Why do I keep forgetting the song? That's annoying. That's annoying. That's annoying. Sorry, I have to refresh it. I dag er det krydsets fødselsdag. Hurra, hurra, hurra. Hvor han sikkert sig en gave for, som hun har ønsket sig i år, og dejlig chokolade og kager til. Hvor smiler han, hvor er han glad, hurra, hurra, hurra. Men denne dag er også rar, for hjemme venter mor og far med dejlig chokolade og kager til. Happy birthday, Chris. And thank you, Amber LMT, for 5 gifted memberships. Went to Andrea, Stevie, Tash, Bex, Tiff, Kimberlina, and Heidi, 7076. That's America's birthday. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And you better figure out the lyrics before 8/12. We have some major issues. I don't know what happens on the 8th of December, but thank you for the super chat. Thank you all. Although Mr. Kearney's reporting on the Reed case raised disturbing questions about the possibility of systemic corruption in Norfolk County and gained him tens and thousands of supporters, the public official and private citizens he has accused of wrongdoing and the microscopic segment of the population who remain convinced of Ms. Reed's guilt despite her acquittal despises him for his coverage and opinion. I like this part. The microscopic segment of the population. I like that. That's why you like reading Bederow. He puts a little sass on it. Since Mr. Kearney's exposed the scandal surrounding the Reed case on April 18, 2023, the DA, MSP, Ms. McCabe, and the Alberts have repeatedly used the criminal justice system as an instrument to silence Turtle Boy and end the persistent criticism his reporting has caused and still causes them today. Summary of the motions. The primary evidence used to secure Mr. Kearney's indictment was shortened, edited, and renamed segments from his hour-long YouTube episodes, which had the effect of skewing the true context of Mr. Kearney's episodes. For months prior to the grand jury proceedings, Lieutenant Tully and Mr. Mello was familiar with Mr. Kearney's actual episodes, including their true names, length, and context. During the 2 months prior to the grand jury proceedings, Tully and Mello welcomed unvetted evidence and guidance from the old cruster herself, Catherine Peter, a private citizen who they knew harbored an unhealthy obsession and hatred for Mr. Kearney. Ms. Peters' dreadful credibility includes incidents in 2020 and 23 where she falsified and forged evidence to harm Mr. Kearney, the latter of which included her audacious defamation and exploitation of Colin Albert and Chris Albert to further her insatiable urge to embarrass Mr. Kearney. This is, of course, the fake copyright strike where she forged federal governments. Funny how she didn't get indicted for any of that. And the lies that Colin Albert was selling drugs and John O'Keefe had reached out to the local police department. Sadly, it's still a story that some people keep bringing up whenever we talk about this case, that the reason why John O'Keefe was killed is because he knew that Colin Albert was dealing drugs. It was a different person. You can go over to the FOIA and find out documents. It's a different person, has nothing to do with Colin Albert. It was Krusty Panties who sent it to Aidan to make him make a false report. Just so we can lay that one to bed. Miss Peter provided Tully and Mello with video and audio evidence, including edits from Mr. Kearney's lengthy episodes, which she believed evinced Mr. Kearney's intent to intimidate witnesses. As detailed in the accompanying affidavit of Courtney Healy, according to Detective Lieutenant Tully, Miss Peter directed him to specific stamps of Mr. Kearney's episodes, which he located and edited rather than review the linked files provided to him by Miss Peters. Tully apparently renamed the edits he made from Mr. Kearney's episodes, such that they didn't accurately reflect the names created by Mr. Kearney, and saved them in a folder he created, which included at least one he named Intent. The edited and renamed files and the Intent folder D.L. Tully created were the exact files that became the exhibits that Mr. Mello introduced and D.L. Tully described before the grand jury. Just that he would show a folder called Intent should throw it out, because that's highly biased, because that's for the grand jury to figure out if there was intent. But again, it's the little games they play all the time to try and make people believe. But it's such dirty work. Such dirty work. It's like putting up a video of Jen McCabe and saying, Karen Reed admits murdering John O'Keefe. And it's just Jen McCabe saying, she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. That's not proof of anything. But just that it says that in the header, people who see it will say, oh, but that's the one that proves it. Yeah, it's prejudicial, yes. Yeah, Tully, who has no involvement in anything. Mr. Mello's direction of the grand jury proceedings made a mockery of Mr. Kearney's right to due process, the cumulative impact of which impaired the integrity of the grand jury proceedings and prejudiced Mr. Kearney. Mr. Mello littered the grand jury proceedings with his improper comments, his unsworn opinions of the evidence, and Mr. Kearney's intent, and by twice eliciting D.L. Tully's opinion that Mr. Kearney intended to intimidate witnesses. Mr. Mello provided the grand jury with improper legal instructions and failed to give appropriate limiting instructions. He improperly alerted the grand jury about the possible sentence associated with the crimes for which he sought indictments, and even a charge for which he did not seek an indictment. Mr. Mello dedicated the first day of the grand jury proceedings to dirtying up Mr. Kearney through his introduction of irrelevant and prejudicial evidence related to an uncharged allegation of Mr. Kearney wiretapping Stephen Scanlon, a topic entirely unrelated to the witness intimidation allegations before the grand jury. Mello and Tully misled the grand jury by limiting evidence of Mr. Kearney's intent to Tully's edits of his episodes, which left the grand jury with inaccurate and far more incriminating information about the names, length, and context of Mr. Kearney's episodes, rather than affording the grand jury access to his authentic episodes, which would have provided it with the accurate and favorable context of Mr. Kearney's statement. At least 28 times during the course of the grand jury proceedings, Mr. Mello elicited from Tully materially false and misleading testimony about Mr. Kearney's YouTube episodes, which gave the grand jury the false impression that he created the episodes to document his alleged intimidation of witnesses. Despite numerous defense demands for specific evidence from September 24 to August 25, the DA has failed to disclose exculpatory or discoverable evidence, or at a minimum, explain what efforts, if any, it made to locate the requested evidence. The defense made a prior defense motion to dismiss the indictments without access to important undisclosed evidence that was in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, and control prior to filing of the motion. Communications between Ms. Peters, Mr. Mello, and D.L. Tully, which are relevant to the instant motion to dismiss, The indictment have been in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, and control since 2023 and were the subject of specific demands on September 12, 2024, October 8, 2024, and October 17, 2024, but were not disclosed to the defense until months after the court decided our initial motion to dismiss. Mr. Mello forwarded many of the communications relevant to the instant motion to dismiss the indictment to co-counsel Robert Cosgrove on December 16, 24, but Mr. Cosgrove didn't provide them to the defense until July 7, 2025, notwithstanding specific defense demands for the exact evidence addressed to both months before the defense filed the first motion to dismiss the indictment. On September 4th, 25, the defense learned for the first time that D.L. Tully apparently edited and renamed Mr. Kearney's content, and that this altered evidence later became the exhibits used by Mr. Mello and D.L. Tully to mislead the grand jury about Mr. Kearney's alleged intent. The communications between and among Ms. Peters, Mr. Mello, and D.L. Tully, recently disclosed by the Commonwealth, established that the defense still hasn't been provided with A. private video links Ms. Peters sent directly to Mr. Mello and D.L. Tully, B. photographs and other evidence Ms. Peters sent Sergeant Bukaki, and C. communications between Ms. Peters and D.L. Tully regarding the assistance she provided D.L. Tully immediately before he accessed Mr. Kearney's actual episodes and edited them, changing their names and placing them in an intent folder he created for the use in the grand jury. The DA now claims that numerous private links containing discoverable information about Mr. Kearney that Ms. Peters provided Mr. Mello and D.L. Tully has since been deleted by a private party, i.e. Ms. Peters. The Commonwealth has represented that D.L. Tully has never opened any unsolicited links emailed to him by Ms. Peters. Notably, they have not and cannot say the same about Mr. Mello, who not only opened private links sent to him by Ms. Peters, but sent them to D.L. Tully for him to review. This is again, this is the bullshit. Well, I didn't look at it from Kate Peters. No, because you put in a middleman. She sent it to Mello, Mello sent it to you. Again, if they can establish that, why is the Commonwealth like this? That's the big question. Why are they? They should drop the charges. I know they can't do it because then the McAlbert clan would go absolutely bananas. But if I was in a bakery right now and I made a batch of bad baguettes, I wouldn't just put them out front and say, well, it's because they are Dutch baguettes. They are supposed to taste weird. I would be ashamed as my profession that I made a bad batch. I would throw it out and make a new one. These people are constantly just, nah, fuck it. We have all these rules. We have all this stuff that we have to live up to. I don't care. We have Rule 14. We have Brady. I don't care. Who cares about, again, the same efforts do you do for the best people you should do for the worst people. You shouldn't play loose with the rules. The rules are there for a reason. And then it happens like in the Murdoch trial or in the Letitia Stout trial and all of these trials that's overturned because you cheat. You put your finger on the scale and that's not the job. Justice should be blind. It's called doing a half-ass lazy job. No, it's also called cheating. This isn't a lazy job. This is, oh, we just sent it through a middleman, so I had plausible deniability. This is cheating. This should be criminal. These are cops. Therefore, favorable and discoverable and evidence that indisputably were in the Commonwealth's actual possession since 2023 apparently is no longer available for disclosure to the defense. That alone, that they didn't preserve the evidence sent by Krusty. Mr. Kearney has been prejudiced by the non-disclosure and or destruction of exculpatory and discoverable evidence because the defense has been deprived of critical, substantive, and impeachment evidence in support of the claim that the DA's bias and shoddy investigation relied upon unvetted and possibly tampered evidence from a source with a patently obvious motive to falsely accuse Mr. Kearney and with a track record of doctoring evidence against him on at least 2 occasions. Mr. Mello's communication with Tully and Krusty regarding her relationship with and production of evidence to the prosecution, the likelihood that he will contradict D.L. Tully's claim that he had never reviewed private links sent by Ms. Peters, his knowledge of Ms. Peters' motive to falsely accuse Mr. Kearney, and her overall lack of credibility, his knowledge that D.L. Tully edited and renamed evidence that he later introduced to the grand jury, and his conduct before the grand jury, which included eliciting false and misleading testimony from D.L. Tully, supports Mr. Kearney's defense and will make Mr. Mello an essential defense witness at trial. Mr. Mello also made himself a material witness when on November 5th, 2023, in his official capacity as Mr. Kearney's prosecutor, he called the police advocating on behalf of witness Chris Albert by seeking to have peaceful protesters assemble across the street from Mr. Albert's pizza shop charged with witness intimidation. Again, how can you be this shit at your job? I would be embarrassed if this was me. I would have a little bit of professional integrity. Mr. Mello's conduct and credibility will be key issues at trial, and it would therefore be improper for him to represent the Commonwealth and defend himself as an unsworn witness. Mr. Mello must be disqualified pursuant to Rule 3.7, which mandates that a lawyer shall not act as an advocate at a trial in which the lawyer is likely to be a necessary witness. See also Commonwealth v. Del Negro. The court has disqualified Mr. Mello from prosecuting Mr. Kearney in docket number 2482CR00043 for the exact same reasons being sought here. Accordingly, for the reasons detailed in the affidavit, its exhibits, and the accompanying memorandum of law, the court should dismiss the indictments against Mr. Kearney and disqualify Mr. Mello, or in its alternative, order an evidentiary hearing on the motions because the prosecution had prejudiced Mr. Kearney by A, intentionally impairing the integrity of a grand jury proceeding, and B, failing to disclose specifically requested exculpatory and discoverable evidence in their possession, custody, and control, and Mr. Mello's conduct has made him an essential defense witness. Pretty good, to the point, a little sass. I think he outlined it well enough. Cosgrove is going to argue, like he always does, that there was no, and they couldn't be, and they was, and they never, and they have done whatever, and they were sent over 6,000 blank pages. That must be something he don't know. How do I bring the internet into the courtroom? He will have nothing to fight this. The need to silence Mr. Kearney. On April 10, 2023, Ms. McCabe and the Alberts learned that they were subject of a federal investigation into the Commonwealth's investigation of Mr. O'Keefe's death and its subsequent prosecution of Ms. Reed. On or about April 10, 2023, Colin Albert was served with a federal grand jury subpoena. On information and belief, on the morning of April 10, 2023, Ms. McCabe was served with a federal grand jury subpoena. Sometimes thereafter, Brian Albert, Mr. Proctor, Brian Higgins, Carrie Roberts, and others were served with federal grand jury subpoenas. On information and belief, Ms. McCabe was briefly interviewed by FBI agents on the morning of April 2023. As detailed in her testimony at Ms. Reed's 2025 trial, Ms. McCabe told at least 2 material lies to the FBI. Ms. McCabe lied to the FBI by initially claiming that she was her sister, Nicole Albert, before properly identifying herself. Ms. McCabe lied to the FBI about phone calls she made to Brian Albert and Carrie Roberts and others immediately after she was approached by FBI agents. Although she testified at Ms. Reed's 2025 trial that she was cooperative with law enforcement, Ms. McCabe terminated her FBI interview within minutes. On April 10, 2023 at 9 a.m., on information and belief, immediately after Ms. McCabe called Ms. Roberts, while FBI agents were waiting to speak with her, a call Ms. McCabe lied to the agents about, Ms. Roberts asked Steve Nelson, the DA's victim witness advocate, redacted. On April 10 at 12:03, Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, redacted, Ms. Roberts, redacted. Footnote. Ms. Roberts did speak to the FBI. As revealed in her testimony at Ms. Reed's 2025 trial, she repudiated her 2022 grand jury testimony, where she falsely swore that she heard Ms. Reed ask Ms. McCabe to Google "How's long to die in the cold," sometimes after 6 a.m. on January 29, 2022, and 23 after being read 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1001 warning by FBI. Ms. Roberts admitted she didn't hear Ms. Reed ask Ms. McCabe to make the Google search. On April 12, 23, just 2 days after Ms. McCabe had been rattled by the FBI, Ms. Reed's defense filed its lengthy motion, which, among other things, alleged the significant and reliable evidence implicating her and Brian Albert in Mr. O'Keefe's death. Ms. Reed's motion accused Ms. McCabe of Googling "How's long to die in the cold" at 2:27 a.m. on January 29, 2022, and alleged that other data demonstrated that Mr. O'Keefe was inside Brian Albert's home when he died. Ms. Reed's defense further alleges that A. It has uncovered significant evidence that Ms. McCabe had taken affirmative steps to delete and tamper with evidence, and B. It had a good faith belief that Brian Albert had taken affirmative steps to destroy evidence. Suffice to say that between April 10th and 17, 2023, Ms. McCabe and the Alberts had strong reasons to be concerned about their legal situation and the adverse impact on the public reputation that would result from media coverage of scrutiny they received from the FBI and/or from the Reed defense allegations of their complicity in Mr. O'Keefe's death. That's a long footnote. Ms. McCabe was concerned with being publicly associated in any way with Mr. O'Keefe's death. On January 30th, 2022, at 8:06 a.m., she Googled BPD and John O'Keefe. On February 1, 2022, at 11:23 p.m., she Googled John O'Keefe. On February 2, 2022, at 10:54 a.m., in a text message to her daughter, redacted. On February 2nd, 2022, at 11:37 a.m., Ms. McCabe Googled Jennifer McCabe. Despite their concerns with being mentioned in the growing media coverage, less than 72 hours after Mr. O'Keefe's death, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts redacted. I think that's when didn't they drive to Brian Tully's house that day? It might be that. On April 18th, 2023, Ms. McCabe and the Alberts' concern was amplified when Mr. Kearney cited the publicly filed defense motion and exhibits as his primary source, blew the lid of the Reed case by publishing his first Canton cover-up. After Mr. Kearney posted his first story about the Reed case, the DA sought to muzzle him in response to numerous complaints from the McAlberts, who had substantially access to and influence with the DA. Footnote. Brian Albert was a longtime Boston police officer who had a personal relationship with Canton Police Chief Ken Berkowitz. His brother Kevin Albert was and is a Canton police officer. In April 23, Chris Albert had recently been elected to serve as a Canton Town Selectman. Members of the Alberts family had a personal relationship with Mr. Proctor. Ms. McCabe had personal relationship with members of the Canton Police Department who were involved in the Reed case. On April 20th, 2023, no doubt concerned about the viral dissemination of Mr. Kearney's article and its detailed exposure of the Reed defense motion, Ms. McCabe redacted. On information and belief in response to Ms. McCabe's redacted, which would become a constant refrain, the DA publicly stated it would disprove the Reed defense's allegations about the timing of Ms. McCabe's Google search. So that has to do with her Googling and deleting Googling properly. Notwithstanding the DA's attempt to triage the metastasizing Don't use big words. The growing scandal by publicly defending Ms. McCabe, things continue to get worse for her and the Alberts day by day. Mr. Kearney's reporting led to Ms. Reed modestly attending court appearance, becoming newsworthy events overflowing the supporters and media. Her support became so great that before both of... I missed a footnote. Oh, sorry. I missed a footnote about Ms. McCabe's search. Although the DA literally responded to the April 12, 2023 defense motion, Ms. McCabe didn't demand that the DA do something until Mr. Kearney's reporting emphasized her Google searches and implicated her in the cover-up of Mr. O'Keefe's death. The DA's knee-jerk defense of Ms. McCabe's occurred week before it hired a digital forensic expert, which occurred on or after May 7th, 2023, the day DA Morrissey excitedly instructed his team to hire Jessica Hyde because she anticipated an opinion that might support the DA's position on Ms. McCabe's Google search because of a possible time zone issue. And then we went from her support became so great that before both of her trials, the court ordered that a buffer zone be created to prevent jurors from being exposed to and influenced by Ms. Reed's vocal supporters. After April 18th, 2023, Ms. Reed's public support increased exponentially. Her growing throng of supporters regularly protested and held standouts, where large groups of people congregated in public spaces and displayed signs supportive of Ms. Reed and critical of the DA, MSP, Ms. McCabe, and the Alberts. On May 9th, 2023, the DA wrote the U.S. Attorney's Office seeking information about the federal investigation after being notified about the issue of at least 2 federal subpoenas. On May 18th, the DA sought the recusal of the Boston U.S. Attorney's Office from the federal investigation due to what it alleged was a conflict of interest. On May 24th, 2023, Ms. McCabe and Ms. Roberts, clearly worried about Mr. Kearney's growing influence in public opinion, redacted. And no footnote so we can glean what it is. On May 30th, 2024, Ms. McCabe unsuccessfully sought a harassment prevention order against Mr. Kearney. Demonstrating her fundamental misunderstanding of the First Amendment, Ms. McCabe alleged that on April 18, 2023, the day he first reported on the Reed defense motion accusing Ms. McCabe of complicity in Mr. O'Keefe's death, Mr. Kearney attacked her character. In what amounted to a request for unconstitutional prior restraint on Mr. Kearney, Ms. McCabe urged the court to do something so he can't blog about me. The more you try to use the legal system to stop people reporting on you, the more people will be reporting about you. I read all the footnotes. I read all the footnotes. I just missed one. I'm sorry. And I went back and read it. But the more you try to say people can't talk about you, the more people will talk about you. That's the rule number 1 of the internet. The court predictably ruled that, however upsetting Mr. Kearney's reporting made Ms. McCabe, he was a member of the press and his activity protected speech under the First Amendment. On July 1st, 2023, Ms. McCabe, who frequently asked the DA and courts to do something about Mr. Kearney, oddly contacted him on Facebook Messenger and sent him a photograph of a mostly naked man. That's such a fucking weird thing. It's so dumb. Ms. McCabe apologized to Mr. Kearney and then ominously advised him to have fun in Mashpee, where Mr. Kearney was vacationing, which suggested she kept tabs on his whereabouts. But she's so afraid of him. On July 13th, 2023, in an email with the subject line, redacted, Mr. Proctor emailed D.L. Tully, Lieutenant L.T. John Fanning, Sergeant Bukaki, and Reed Prosecutor Adam Lally, referencing Mr. Kearney as redacted. Mr. Proctor informed the group, redacted. On July 16th, 2023, no doubt reeling from the perfect storm created by the ongoing federal investigation, Ms. Reed's aggressive defense, and the public's increasing awareness of the growing scandal resulting from Mr. Kearney's reporting about the Reed case, D.A. Morrissey, from his personal email address, Under MGL 66, paragraph 15, it's a crime for a public official to remove or attempt to conceal the discovery of records that are subject to public inspection under FOIA. D.A. Morrissey, from his personal email address, essentially begged the Massachusetts Attorney General Office, the AG, to prosecute Mr. Kearney for witness intimidation and or civil rights violations. On July 21st, D.A. Morrissey, from his personal email account, again urged the AG to act against Mr. Kearney. On information and belief, the AG declined to prosecute Mr. Kearney because it recognized that it was inappropriate to prosecute him for witness intimidation based on his reporting about witnesses who were upset after being accused in publicly filed court documents of complicity in a high-profile murder. Footnote. On December 8, 2023, again from his personal email account, D.A. Morrissey wrote to D.L. Tully and others bemoaning the AG's conclusion that Mr. Kearney's conduct did not warrant criminal prosecution. On July 24, 2023, Ms. McCabe told Mr. Nelson, redacted. On August 1st, Canton Selectman Chris Albert contacted the DA, redacted. On August 3, 2023, General Counsel for the Department of Justice, DOJ, Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys rejected the DA's request for the Boston U.S. Attorney's Office to recuse itself from the federal investigation. On August 9th, 2023, Ms. McCabe, redacted. On information and belief, between August 9th, 2023 and August 25, 2023, Ms. McCabe, members of the Albert family, the MSP, and D.A. Morrissey, and all others met to discuss Ms. McCabe's latest demand for the DA to do something to stop Mr. Kearney from reporting about her. On August 25, 2023, D.A. Morrissey capitulated to the demands and threats of Ms. McCabe and the Alberts and decided to do something about Mr. Kearney. Something was D.A. Morrissey's video-recorded public statement, which press officer David Traub immediately disseminated to local and national print and television media. That's the hostage video. Prior to issuing this ill-conceived public statement with assistance from Canton Police Chief Helena Rafferty, D.A. Morrissey accepted input on the content of his statement from a person advocating for Ms. McCabe's and the Alberts' interest. Mr. Traub informed the advocates that he sent D.A. Morrissey's statement to Dateline, NBC, and numerous other media entities. By issuing a statement on behalf of witness with interest that differed from his own, D.A. Morrissey allowed himself, the elected district attorney, to be exploited as a puppet whose string were controlled by influential private citizens motivated to advance their self-serving agenda, which included silencing Turtle Boy. D.A. Morrissey's statement was a flagrant violation of Rule 3.6 of the Massachusetts Rule of Professional Conduct. Although he didn't name Mr. Kearney in his public statement, D.A. Morrissey took subtle shots at him by attempting to discredit the reliability on information from the internet. D.A. Morrissey vigorously vouched for the credibility of Ms. McCabe and the Alberts, decried their victimization from Ms. Kearney's witness intimidation, ludicrously decreed that Colin Albert did not commit murder, blatantly misled the public about Mr. Proctor's credibility, discussed the evidence against Ms. Reed, and implied that she was guilty. This latest effort by D.A. Morrissey to stem the snowballing criticism failed miserably. On September 3, 2023, in a group text which included Morrissey, Tully, Bukaki, and others, Mr. Proctor, the court is no doubt aware of Mr. Proctor's habit of cruelly referring to people adverse to his position. At a minimum, the disgraced former trooper has separately made inappropriate remarks about Ms. Reed, two of her attorneys, a medical examiner, and Mr. Kearney. Referring to Mr. Kearney, redacted, said the quiet part out loud, asking, redacted. As it turns out, Mr. Proctor's, redacted, was prescient. In the aftermath of their futile public statement and after being repeatedly rebuffed by the DOJ and the AG, the Commonwealth played its only remaining hand, shut Mr. Kearney up by prosecuting him itself. The Commonwealth unveiled an Orwellian plan in which they, the very people being criticized by Mr. Kearney, weaponized the witness intimidation statute for the purpose of silencing his criticism of them. Within months, the out-of-control Commonwealth abuse of the witness intimidation statute led it to investigate others with the temerity to publicly criticize the case against Ms. Reid. The MSP and Canton Police Department summoned protesters outside of Chris Albert's pizza shop in what became a national embarrassment. They sought witness intimidation charges against people who placed tiny rubber dogs on public streets in Canton. They investigated people for the content of Facebook messages, which were critical of Ms. McCabe and the Alberts. This colossal waste of public resources didn't result in a single conviction. Yeah, that was kind of embarrassing when they were running around looking for rubber doggies. Remember that interview where they came out to a house and wanted to inform them about the rubber doggies? That was one of the, I think, one of the dumbest videos I've ever seen. On September 15, 2023, in connection with Ms. Reid's court appearance, Mr. Kearney and a large group of her supporters loudly protested outside of Dedham Courthouse in support of her innocence. On September 18th, Ms. McCabe again informed Mr. Nelson, redacted. Ms. McCabe wanted to meet with the DA, redacted. In fact, what occurred, redacted. The September 15 court appearance was official business, redacted. Ms. Reid's case in the courtroom and redacted. The appearance protesters exercised their First Amendment right to criticize Ms. McCabe for her alleged involvement in the cover-up of Mr. O'Keefe's death. On September 20th, Ms. McCabe again told Mr. Nelson, redacted. Mr. Nelson assured Ms. McCabe, redacted. On September 26, 2023, Morrissey recused his office and engaged Mr. Mello as a special prosecutor to handle the anticipated prosecution of Mr. Kearney. Although the DA's recusal indicated Morrissey's appreciation of the clear conflict that would arise from his office prosecuting a journalist who criticized the DA, the MSP, which faced the exact same conflict, didn't recuse itself from the Kearney investigation. Tully, a frequent target of Mr. Kearney's criticism, remained the lead investigator. Mr. Proctor, who recently had referred to Mr. Kearney as redacted and redacted, I think great journalist and what a hell of a guy. I have read a lot of Proctor's text messages, so I'm thinking that's what he said. That it was really cool, and he really likes Turtle Boy, or maybe a little more colorful language. And Sergeant Bukaki, who also regularly targets of Mr. Kearney's, continued to participate in the investigation and later became named victims in the indictments against him. Footnote: Mr. Proctor and Bukaki testified that they were intimidated by Mr. Kearney. Both indictments were dismissed by the court on May 19, 2025. In particular, the dismissed indictment related to Bukaki illustrates the Commonwealth's lack of good faith in prosecuting Mr. Kearney. That charge involved a September 15th video recorded incident in which Mr. Kearney questioned and then criticized Bukaki as he left court and walked to his car. It is obvious that Bukaki wasn't intimidated. He calmly entered his vehicle, rolled the window down, and extended his middle finger as he slowly drove away. Nevertheless, Bukaki testified that Mr. Kearney's conduct absolutely intimidated him. See December 14th, 2023, transcript page 53-54. Sergeant Bukaki didn't even prepare a report on the non-incident until November 2nd, 2023, several weeks after Mr. Kearney had been arrested. Always backdating the reports. That was footnote 11. Without more, the MSP failure to recuse itself and the DA's failure to insist on it in the face of such blatant conflict of interest and actual bias calls into question the motivation of the Commonwealth and entirely discredit the case against Mr. Kearney. On September 28th, Chris Albert unsuccessfully petitioned for a harassment prevention order against Mr. Kearney. The court denied Mr. Albert an order concluding that his allegations did not constitute truth threats or harassment under the law. Notwithstanding his supposed recusal from the Kearney investigation, On September 29th, Morrissey, from his personal email account, contacted several high-ranking Massachusetts judicial figures, including the judge who denied Mr. Albert a protective order the previous day, demanding that a Stoughton court clerk be investigated in connection with Mr. Kearney's awareness of Mr. Albert's application for a protective order, which DA Morrissey claimed he had no right to know about. Morrissey was awarded, you're not allowed to know about, maybe the application, he's not allowed to know about the protective order, but if the protective order was granted, he has all the rights because he has to be told he can't go and say it's blood pizza. DA Morrissey was awarded the investigation he sought on October 31st, 3 weeks after Mr. Kearney's phones were seized by D.L. Tully. A Stoughton court official presented the target of the investigation with pages from an extraction report from one of Mr. Kearney's seized phones. Despite irrefutable proof that at least one of Mr. Kearney's phones had been extracted by D.L. Tully or with his knowledge, Mr. Mello falsely represented on November 28, 2023, that the MSP had not perused the material. It is in pristine form located on the defendant's devices. So Mello lied to the court again. On November 10th, 2023, recused DA Morrissey from his personal email account, emailed AG Andrea Campbell. He acknowledged that the AG refused to prosecute Mr. Kearney, but he again urged the AG to take some action against him. Once again, the AG declined to prosecute or take any other actions against Mr. Kearney. Miss Peters' history of dishonesty and fraud. Miss Peter worked for Mr. Kearney from September 2018 till February 2020, when Mr. Kearney terminated her employment after he caught her stealing from him. Since Mr. Kearney terminated her, Miss Peters' unhealthy fixation on needling Mr. Kearney seemingly has dominated her life. It recently resulted in her being permanently stained with a criminal record. Miss Peters' behavior has resulted in additional criminal prosecutions and the insurance of numerous protective orders against her in favor of Mr. Kearney and other associated with him. Miss Peters' disdain for Mr. Kearney has led her to engage in fraud, forgery, the manufacturing of evidence, and other acts of dishonesty for the purpose of harming Mr. Kearney. In March 2020, shortly after Mr. Kearney fired her for theft, Miss Peter engaged in a harebrained scheme where she forged documents and fraudulently filed them to advance her position and harm Mr. Kearney in connection with a petty YouTube copyright dispute. I just had to close my windows because they are slanted and the rain is really coming down now. 2 seconds. I hope that's a little better. Miss Peter brazenly sent YouTube what she falsely represented was a federal copyright civil complaint dated March 24, 2020, that she filed in the District of Massachusetts in a case she captioned Catherine Peter v. Aidan Kearney, Worcester Digital Marketing, LLC. In fact, the ostensibly complaint Miss Peter filed was a forgery, and there was no federal lawsuit involving Mr. Kearney and Miss Peter. Unaware of Miss Peters' dishonest nature and penchant for scheming against Mr. Kearney, YouTube relied upon her fraudulent documents and false representation to her benefit and Mr. Kearney's detriment, and initially ruled in her favor. Miss Peter committed fraud by going online and accessing a legitimate civil complaint filed in a 2013 federal copyright suit from the District of Massachusetts. She altered the caption and other information to make it appear as if her fraudulent documents were authentic, representing it as her legitimate complaint, and filed it with YouTube. Miss Peters' criminal scheme was exposed by her ignorance of federal court practice. She failed to change the index number when she doctored the legitimate complaint, which meant that her ostensible 2022 complaint contained a 2013 index number. On November 20th, 2022, in an online interview, Ms. Peter admitted that she had submitted the false complaint with the intent to defraud YouTube because she hated Mr. Kearney. Despite engaging in a dishonest scheme, Ms. Peter reasoned that she was trustworthy because she admitted her wrongdoing. Yes, anyone who pleads guilty is super not guilty because they admitted they are guilty. Make it make sense. It's just like her claiming I'm out of the loop with the justice system now, while she's still on 9 months probation. Ms. Peter remains subject to prosecution in Massachusetts for forgery until March 24, 2026. Ms. Peter's self-serving defense of her trustworthiness didn't last long. Within months, she again succumbed to an impulsive urge to harm Mr. Kearney and sent him an anonymous email filled with defamatory and false information about Colin and Chris Albert, hoping that Mr. Kearney would publicly harass the Alberts with the false information she fed him. Ms. Peter was acutely aware that if Mr. Kearney publicly accused Colin Albert and Chris Albert of criminal activities, it likely would lead to the Reed case witnesses, Reed case witnesses to claim that Mr. Kearney witness intimidated them by causing them emotional harm. In March 2025, Colin Albert's and Chris Albert's complaints did result in further witness intimidation charges against Mr. Kearney. According to the Alberts, they suffered emotional harm after they viewed D&E camera footage of Mr. Kearney, who had been socializing, i.e. drinking, with friends next door at C.F. McCarthy's, clowning around while looking at D&E's security cameras. Mr. Kearney comments were unlawfully intercepted by a second camera. The Alberts claimed that were intimidated even though they weren't inside D&E and viewed the footage on their phones from a different location. On May 28, 2023, at 3:30 p.m., concealing her identity under the alias Mia Rose, Ms. Peter shamelessly emailed Mr. Kearney that Colin Albert was a drug dealer and that he was responsible for killing Mr. O'Keefe. Ms. Peter lied to Mr. Kearney that Chris Albert knew his son moved drugs through D&E Pizza and that the whole McAlbert family made money from Colin's drug operation, which probably explained why Brian Albert covered up Mr. O'Keefe's death. Ms. Peters' deranged scheme, including presenting Mr. Kearney with fabricated screenshots she created and which purported to show Mia and Colin Albert discussing drug deals. Why hasn't Krusty Panties been indicted with witness intimidation? Because this is harmful to those poor little men. During the live stream in which Ms. Peter admitted lying to Mr. Kearney about Colin Albert and Chris Albert, she explained exactly how pulled the false screenshot. She explained exactly how pulled the fake screenshots off. That doesn't make sense. During the live stream in which Ms. Peter admitted lying to Mr. Kearney about Colin Albert and Chris Albert, she explained exactly how pulled the false screenshots off the internet. How she pulled the false screenshots off the internet. The rain is really loud. Ms. Peters falsely told Mr. Kearney that Colin Albert talked about harming John because he believed Miss O'Keefe was investigating his drug dealing. Just as Ms. Peter intended during his May 28, 2023 live show, Mr. Kearney told his audience that he had received an anonymous email alleged that Colin Albert was a drug dealer, and this served as a possible motive for him to kill John O'Keefe. Mr. Kearney read the email Ms. Peter sent him and indicated that he would investigate this information. He cautioned his audience that this was new, unvetted information, and he did not vouch for its accuracy or state that it was true. Importantly, after investigating, Mr. Kearney later stated this information was not credible. On May 29, 2023, during her own live stream, Ms. Peter gloated about her disgraceful conduct, which she oddly thought harmed Mr. Kearney and made her look good. Amused by her little fib, she proudly admitted that the defamatory and false information she provided Mr. Kearney about the Alberts was 100% a fabrication out of my mind. Why are they not suing her for defamation? Because she had this put out on the interwebs, and she admitted she knowingly lied about them. Miss Peter conceded that her conduct was damaging to Colin Albert and Chris Albert, but rationalized it because I sent this just to fuck with Aidan. Miss Peter threatened Mr. Kearney, warning him that he should fear her. She issued a call to arms and urged her trolls to send Mr. Kearney more false information, which she would then share with his alleged victims. She bragged, I know that bad things are happening to you right now, Aidan, and you're probably thinking that it might be me, but it's me. You're probably thinking that it might be me, but it is me. What? Just so you know, every single annoyance, every single horrible thing that's happening to you right now, yeah, I done it. Call the police, you bitch. And he did, and you have an order to stay away from him that, in my opinion, you break daily because you try through third party to contact him. But I'm not a lawyer. In other words, just as she did in her 2020 YouTube spat with Mr. Kearney, Miss Peter demonstrated the ease with which she lies, and in this instance, intentionally caused emotional harm to prosecution witnesses if it helps her fuck with Aidan. Miss Peter's defamatory stunt apparently did cause emotional harm to Colin Albert and Chris Albert. On August 1, Chris Albert specifically cited redacted. Redacted when he wrote the DA redacted. Just as Miss Peter intended, Mr. Albert assuredly blamed Mr. Kearney for the bogus drug dealing allegations, entirely ignorant to the fact that it was his supporter and advocate, Miss Peter, who saw him and his son as expendable collateral damage for her false flag operation to harm Mr. Kearney. Within weeks of Miss Peter's cruel and defamatory attempt to amuse herself at the expense of the Alberts and her call to arms, unleashing her trolls on the Mr. Kearney, on Mr. Kearney, D.L. Tully, and Mr. Mello, willingly relied on her as a primary source for gathering evidence to use during the grand jury proceedings against Mr. Kearney. Miss Peters immerses herself into the case. On information and belief, for years, Miss Peters has spent several hours a week online, monitoring and cataloging Mr. Kearney's content, mining for material to use against him. Miss Peter has no public interest or stake in the Reed case and no association with any witnesses in it until Mr. Kearney began supporting Miss Reed's innocence. Naturally, once Mr. Kearney started to support Miss Reed, Miss Peters became a self-styled advocate for Miss McCabe, the Alberts, and the O'Keefes. In July 23, Miss Peter created a Facebook group support for Mao. Don't support Mao. He killed a lot of people. McCabe, Albert, and O'Keefe. At this point, Miss Peter volunteered to help members of the group find an attorney to deal with Aidan. And sought to foster a relationship of convenience with others who hated him, including Lindsay Gattani, who shortly after meeting Miss Peter became the alleged victim in the 2024 witness intimidation indictment against Mr. Kearney. Nothing encapsulates Turtle Boy derangement syndrome, an affliction which causes people who turn on Mr. Kearney, including Miss Gattani, to engage in irrational behavior more than the several people who protested in support of Miss Reed's innocence and then flippantly switched side and protested for her conviction solely because of their hatred for Mr. Kearney. After she accused Mr. Kearney of intimidating her, Miss Gattani became such a rabid advocate for Miss Reed's guilt that on July 1st, 2024, clad in the same Justice for John O'Keefe shirt as Miss Peter, she appeared on with Miss Peters on a live interview with Court TV. On September 13, 2023, on 3:34, Miss Peters publicly bragged she had achieved a purportedly illegal recording made by the retard, Mr. Kearney, of his conversations with Stephen Scanlon, a private investigator who was tangentially involved in the Reed case in early 2022. Miss Peter claimed that she forwarded the recording to the MSP. On information and belief, on September 13th, 2023 at 4:23 p.m., Miss Peter created a version of the recording and sent it to D.L. Tully in a private link. November 28, 2023, transcript page 8, D.L. Tully testifies that he had been sent a video of the Scanlon recording. ID at 19. D.L. Tully testified the person who it was sent to, she stated it was a private link, so it was not available for public distribution. Emphasize added. An audio copy of the recording that Ms. Peters sent to the MSP on or about September 13th, 2023, the substance of which was played as a video before the grand jury, see November 28, 2023, transcript page 819, wasn't provided to the defense until August 8, 2025. The version of the recording provided to the defense doesn't include the beginning of the recorded call, skips and repeats, and it's clearly edited. The defense hasn't been provided with a copy of the email or any communication in which Ms. Peters provided the Scanlon recording to the MSP. Again, Brady. On September 27, 2023, Ms. Peters emailed Sergeant Bukaki, redacted. The email Ms. Peters sent Sergeant Bukaki included redacted, which haven't been provided to the defense. One day after Mr. Miller was engaged by D.A. Morrissey, Bukaki confirmed Ms. Peters that redacted. Either ignorant or dismissive of Ms. Peters' own criminal conduct and woeful credibility, Sergeant Bukaki praised Ms. Peters, thanking her redacted. On September 29, 2023 at 9:38 a.m., Ms. Peters, now on first-name basis with Sergeant Bukaki, emailed Yuri, redacted. Ms. Peters provided Sergeant Bukaki with redacted. Ms. Peters told Sergeant Bukaki that she was redacted and retarded. Footnote 16. Based upon the information provided to them by redacted, D.L. Tully and Mr. Mello's investigators went to Gardena, California to interview Natalie Bergschneider in person on October 17, 2024. On September 29, 2023 at 3 p.m., Ms. Peters tweeted October 10th, he knows the deal, in response to another post asking her when Mr. Kearney would be subpoenaed. On information and belief, Ms. Peters' reference to he knows the deal indicates that the MSP told her several weeks before Kearney's arrest that they intended to arrest him on October 10th. That is a little bit of a no-no. Well, it's a big deal of a no-no because she has no right to know it. On September 29, 2023 at 4 p.m., Bukaki forwarded his email correspondence of September 27 and 29 with Ms. Peters to redacted. On October 3, 2023, Tully emailed Fanning, Bukaki, and Proctor that he had redacted. Bukaki replied that he already provided redacted and redacted to redacted. Lieutenant Fanning replied that all his redacted. On information and belief, the redacted and redacted being discussed by Tully, Bukaki, and Fanning on October 3 related to the redacted Ms. Peters provided D.L. Tully in a private link on or about September 13, 2023, and which was later used against Mr. Kearney in a grand jury. See November 28, transcript page 819. Almost 2 years later, and despite numerous specific demands related to Ms. Peters' relationship with the Commonwealth, the defense hasn't been provided with any notes, reports, or videos related to Ms. Peters or the private links she sent D.L. Tully on September 13, 2023. For months prior to the November 28, 2023 commencement of the grand jury proceedings, Tully, Bukaki, and Proctor were aware of Ms. Peters' unstable obsession with Mr. Kearney. As experienced detectives who had been investigating Mr. Kearney since mid-23, the MSP knew or should have known of numerous red flags which adversely impacted Ms. Peters' credibility, including her eager insertion of herself into the investigation, her personal animus towards Mr. Kearney, which gave her a clear motive to falsely accuse him of a crime, her insertion into Ms. McCabe's orbit, and most importantly, her prior history of falsifying evidence against Mr. Kearney. Indeed, given their constant review of social media as the means of acquiring evidence against Mr. Kearney, the DA and MSP must be familiar with Kearney's March 30th, 2020 article detaining Ms. Peters' fraud in connection with their YouTube copyright dispute and Ms. Peters' May 29, 2023 live stream where she admitted falsifying evidence about Colin and Chris Albert to goad Mr. Kearney into smearing them. Mr. Kearney was arrested on October 11th, just one day after Ms. Peter publicly announced weeks earlier. MSP audio transmissions from immediately before Mr. Kearney's arrest revealed that the arrest team, a fugitive unit which include Tully, heard from KP it was the same thing from yesterday, two older kids getting on around the same time. On information and belief, KP referred to Ms. Peters and she helped the MSP coordinate Ms. Kearney's arrest by monitoring him beforehand. Footnote. Ms. Peter has a history of surveilling people to create chaos for them. She and Ms. Kearney discussed spying on Ms. Reed and members of her legal team on the Omni Seaport Hotel in Boston. She also has shared surreptitious photos of Mr. Kearney and others socializing at the Hillside Pub in Canton in March 4th, 2025. Remember, they claim it's another officer called something. It wasn't Krusty Panties. So they better bring him to court and make him testify that, yes, he was the one who surveilled Aidan the day before. Ms. Peter attended Mr. Kearney's October 11, 2023 arraignment in Stoughton District Court. She had testified that she went to meet with Mr. Mello and that she was a potential witness against Mr. Kearney. Shortly after Mr. Kearney's arrest, Ms. Peters, with the blessing of Mr. Mello and Detective Tully, became an integral part of the prosecution team. On October 25, 2023, Ms. Peter emailed Tully that she and her team were redacted and retarded. To this day, the DA hasn't informed the defense of who, if anyone, served on Ms. Peters' team. Ms. Peter sent Tully a redacted, which she redacted. Wherever she believed there was evidence of a crime, she advised DL Tully redacted. Ms. Peter further informed DL Tully that her team had redacted. Almost 2 years later, the defense hasn't been provided with information Ms. Peter provided to DL Tully in the redacted or redacted links. On November 1, 2023, Ms. Peter emailed Tully with the subject line redacted, emphasis added. She informed Tully redacted. Ms. Peter told Tully that she would redacted. Ms. Peters' email provided Tully with another link to a redacted. Almost 2 years later, the defense team hasn't been provided with this video file or any response by DL Tully to Ms. Peters' question. On November 17, 2023, Ms. Peter emailed DL Tully redacted. According to DL Tully, he relied upon information Ms. Peter provided him before he edited Mr. Kearney's YouTube episodes. On November 26, 2023, just 2 days before Mr. Mello commenced the grand jury presentation, Ms. Peter emailed him subject line redacted, a redacted. Ms. Peter sought Mr. Mello's redacted, writing redacted, emphasis added. On November 26, Mr. Mello's response to Ms. Peter proved that he opened private links sent to him by Ms. Peter, redacted. In response to Mr. Mello's request, Ms. Peter sent him redacted. Ms. Peters' November 26, 2023 communication with Mr. Mello conclusively established that Mr. Mello outsourced investigative work to her, discussed strategy with her, was aware that she edited Mr. Kearney's content with her own editorial slant and bias, and that he reviewed private links she sent him 2 days before the grand jury's proceeding started. This is what I really want to hear, because we know the cops are dirty. But I want to know what all of this redacted is. We know it's video files. We know whatever it is. But I want to know how Krusty Panties, who have I don't know how many blemishes on her criminal record, a woman who lost 50% of her kids because she chose a violent man over him, and now today is claiming people shouldn't be violent. Because she is nothing but a big old fucking contradiction of reality in her own little mind. But I want to know how, first of all, a special prosecutor who is getting well paid, professional police officers are working with such a biased client and taking anything she says as gospel. I get a lot of emails and, hey, you should look at this, and did you know this, and have you heard this? Yeah, that's fine. During the Karen Reed case, the amount of emails I got about, well, Colin did it. You can prove it by seeing this photo. those photos wasn't on the day off or the next day. It didn't prove anything. Well, did you see this? To this day, I still get emails about, did you see that evidence? Well, it's not going to fix anything. Karen Read was found innocent, and no one else is going to get charged with the murder of John O'Keefe. So I really don't need anything until Proctor sings, because before then, we will never get a new court hearing. But I don't know if Andrea sends me something, I don't just go live and say, oh, by the way, Colin Albert did this. No, I would go and check my sources and see if I can see it confirmed anywhere else. These fuckers just said, yeah, this absolute monster of a woman, yeah, we trust her. We really trust her. I feel really bad for normal chicks in Massachusetts. So many are very bored and have to find odd things to fill up their time. Yeah. I have a very negative view of the women in Massachusetts, and it's based solely on 5 women. I'm sorry to the rest of you. Lieutenant Fanning has testified that Ms. Peter reported things to the MSP that they can't find a document. February 22, 2024, transcript page 7 to 10. In December 23, as part of her plan to coax Ms. Kearney into bringing witness intimidation charges against Mr. Kearney, Ms. Peters told Ms. Kearney that she had redacted and that she had spoken to him about redacted. Ms. Peters joked that when she spoke to Mr. Mello, redacted. I like that he slips up, so he's, I've spoken to whom? Oh, even though it's probably redacted up here, he fucks up and it's not redacted. On December 12, 2023, Ms. Kearney texted Ms. Peter that Mr. Kearney redacted. On February 26, 2024, Ms. Peter left Mr. Kearney a crude and harassing voice message gloating about her importance to the Commonwealth's case against him. I am quoting YouTube. I am quoting a woman who calls black people Uncle Toms. So the words will be a little proctorish. This is a quote. This is not my words. YouTube, don't strike me for it. Disclaimer. Hey, Fago, it's Kate. Kate Peter, you know, crusty panties. You know, every time you get a block number, it's not Lindsay or LG or anyone else. It's me. And I just want to tell you, I just want to let you know that when you go back to jail, I had absolutely everything to do with it because you are a dumb motherfucker. I'm going to get the best of you. You are a bad person and everybody's going to see it. Have a nice day. By the way, Karen Read wants nothing to do with you. Go fuck yourself, bitch. I meant it. This was quoted by Crusty Panties. I didn't say any of those words or believe them. But this woman who yesterday didn't plead guilty, she didn't change her plea, which she said, but she contested that the state had enough evidence to find her guilty, potentially in a crime. So she is on 9 months of probation in the Mary Bagwell case. This woman is the star witness. Since the Karen Read case started, did she pick up 2 or 3 witness harassment charges herself? She also has there's a restraining order on her. She cannot contact Aidan, but she fucking goes and writes him every single day, constantly tries to get his attention. But because she's the darling of the MSP, the law doesn't work for you, it works for me. Would I repeat the last sentence, please? Miss Profess. Bitch, I meant it. Well, that's not the last sentence. The last sentence is I meant it. I meant it. She wants to intimidate her. This is my standing belief. No woman spends so much time on a man just because he fired her. Even if you had been in a relationship with a guy, you burned his underwear, you scream to the moon, you get drunk, and you tell your girlfriends, what an asshole, his dick is this big. And then you move on. This woman is insanely obsessive about Aidan. And it can only stem out of, in my opinion, that she is madly in love with Aidan. She wants Aidan. She is obsessed with Aidan. This is so unhealthy. It's not just hate. This has to be, I hate you because you don't love me back. This woman makes three tweets about Aidan every single fucking day. Her entire life is Aidan Kearney. You cannot tell me that this isn't the signs of a stalker. A woman who is so obsessed with Aidan, she will do anything to destroy him. But in reality, what she just wants is the intimidator. It's for Aidan to love her back. At this point, I think she is obsessed because she just, well, make money if you can. If I had that hate towards someone, and I could get $100 a month, I'll take the $100. I'm gonna write about him anyway. Why not get paid? Imagine how much she neglects the kids she has left because she spent all her time obsessing over Aidan. You know she runs his shows on half speed just to get any fraction of the words that could potentially be something. You know, half the views on every stream is her rewatching to try and find something. This woman is criminally obsessed with Aidan. One of the first Baker shows I watched, he said Krusty sleeps in a swamp, and I don't know what, that was hysterical to me. She looks like a swamp hack. No, I'll be fair. The Ozempic has really helped her, but it also looks like one of the big problems with being on Ozempic like she is that she loses too much weight too fast instead of progressively slowing or losing the weight, and she hasn't worked out, so the skin just gets saggy. So you can tell from the support night where there was, I heard the round number of supporters who were there for the McAlbert feast. About 60 billion people were in the room that night. Maybe 70 billion. They had there was an accounting error, so they weren't sure, but at least 60 billion paying customer were in watching Krusty host that event. But you can tell that before she was covering up, she was a big fatty like me. Now she's covering up that she has a lot of loose skin. That's why remember to eat your protein and hit the gym when you are on the Ozempics. But she had lost a shit ton of weight. She's still a fucked up person because it doesn't change. It's not because you're fat, you're an idiot. It's because you're an idiot. Change being an idiot instead of change being fat. A thin love between love and hate, they say. Very thin. Hey, Slidey. Thank you, William Swift. Baker, I got alive. You're the best. Well, I'm halfway decent some days, but thank you so much. I'm joking about what? I'm not funny. I don't joke. Hasn't tried to look. Yeah, she lost a lot of weight. When she was in court in February, she looked almost pregnant. she had that big blown up gut. She looked pregnant. I was like, oh my God, hopefully not. But then over 4 or 5 months, she lost a shit ton of weight. And that's too fast because your skin cannot follow that rapid of the weight loss, especially if she doesn't make sure to work out. That's why if you go on Ozempic, you will be told to try and not just stop eating because it makes you feel like not eating or something like that. You have to take your meals, maybe eat a little less at every meal, but make sure you get something in your body because that rapid weight loss will just give you loose skin. You can fix and change many things. Stupidity is not one of them. And assholery is also very unfixable. In March 2024, Ms. Peter boasted under oath in Kearney v. Peter Leominster, probably said that incorrectly, District Court, docket number 2461 R0081, that Mr. Kearney is angry and upset with me because I have been cooperating with the prosecution and giving them information on him. He can blame me for all his problems because I am furnishing information. Tully and Mellow's knowledge of distorted evidence prior to the grand jury proceedings. Tully prepared and signed the charging documents filed against Mr. Kearney on October 11th, 2023. As the special prosecutor in charge of the prosecution, Mr. Mellow was familiar with the content of the charging documents and the evidence against Mr. Kearney at the time of his arrest, which was almost 7 weeks before Mr. Mellow elicited testimony from Tully before the grand jury. Mr. Mellow billed taxpayers for only 56 hours of work performed during October 23, although commencing on October 4th, 2023. And on each and every day thereafter, including weekends and all legal holidays, I have devoted about an absolute minimum of 4 hours a day and frequently 12 or more hours a day, which meant that before Mr. Mellow elicited testimony from Tully in the grand jury proceedings, he worked more than 232 hours on Mr. Kearney's case, at least 112 hours in October 23, and at least 120 hours on November 23. From October 23 to December 23, Mr. Mellow spent more than 700 hours of time on this matter. His services included, but not limited to, reviewing some 8 months of daily internet posts and blogs associated with this matter, coordinating efforts with investigators, drafting court filings, and making presentations to the grand jury. The charging documents and Mr. Mellow's billing records revealed Tully and Mellow's familiarity with Mr. Kearney's online videos, episodes, and written articles, the Canton Cover-Up series. Tully accurately cited names of specific episodes, exact timestamps, and exact quotes within them. For example, Tully accurately named the title of 3 episodes: Turtle Boy returns to Canton, Breaking Karen Reed defense file motion to recuse, Colin Albert drops out of school, Brian Higgins flipping. Is the end near? No, it wasn't near. You got that one wrong. December 20, 2023, transcript page 5. Tully testified episode 598 entitled Life as Normal is Over, and episode 604 entitled I Do Not Want to Go This to Go to Trial. Detective Lieutenant Tully repeatedly referenced numerous other unnamed episodes, citing and quoting them in precise details. Tully noted that Mr. Kearney's episodes are publicly available for viewing without being a subscriber or follower and have been archived by investigators. Thus, it is indisputable that before Mellow elicited testimony from Tully during the grand jury proceedings, both men knew the actual titles, length, and content of Mr. Kearney's YouTube episodes. The public availability of Mr. Kearney's content and Tully and Mellow's familiarity with it means there were no reason for the Commonwealth, A, to consult with or seek Ms. Peters' input on what the evidence should be presented to the grand jury, or B, to clip, edit, and rename Mr. Kearney's episodes and then conceal the actual episodes and the accurate information from a grand jury consideration. Ms. Peters' communication with the Commonwealth provides additional proof that Tully and Mellow, A, worked hand in hand with her in gathering and editing evidence for the use in the grand jury proceedings. On January 3, Ms. Peter emailed Mellow Tully a redacted. Mr. Mellow forwarded Mr. Miss Peters' email and the links she sent to them to Tully and said redacted. And B, intended to deceive the grand jury by intentionally presenting a false and misleading description of Mr. Kearney's episodes. The flawed grand jury presentation. The grand jury proceedings commenced on November 28, 2023, and continued December 5th, December 14th, December 19th, and December 20th, 2023. The main witness against Mr. Kearney was Tully. He testified a total of 11 times over the course of the 5-day proceedings. On December 20th, the grand jury voted to indict Mr. Kearney for witness intimidation, picketing, and conspiracy to commit witness intimidation. Mr. Mello did not seek Mr. Kearney's indictment for illegally wiretapping Mr. Scanlon. All of the evidence Mr. Mello presented on November 28 related to the uncharged allegation of Mr. Kearney illegally recording a phone call with Mr. Scanlon. The evidence presented in support of this uncharged allegation of wiretapping consisted of a partial recording Ms. Peters sent Tully and testimony from Scanlon. Tully and Bukaki, who simply read a hearsay interview report into evidence. November 28, 2023, transcript page 223 to 230. The illegal recording played before a grand jury didn't start recording until 1 minute and 9 seconds into the call between Mr. Kearney and Mr. Scanlon. Mr. Scanlon claimed that during the non-recorded portion of the audio played before the grand jury, Mr. Kearney told him that he wouldn't record the conversation at page 1415. Mello didn't authenticate or otherwise demonstrate the reliability of the partial recording provided to him by Ms. Peter. Mello didn't instruct the grand jury about the purported relevance of the wiretapping evidence. Mello didn't instruct the grand jury to disregard any bad act evidence or instruct the grand jury about the wiretapping evidence when considering the charges presented for its deliberation. What Mr. Mello did do was instruct Tully to read the grand jury the text of the wiretapping statute, MGL 272, paragraph 99, including its possible punishment of 5 years imprisonment, November 28, 2023, transcript page 8 and 9. At the conclusion of the November 28, 2023 session, Mr. Mello informed the grand jury that this case involved a violation of MGL 272 99, after which he summarized the definition of the wiretapping statute, which meant the grand jury heard it twice that day at 30:31. After November 28, Mr. Mello never referred to the wiretapping allegation again in the grand jury proceedings. On September 11, 2025, I was informed by Mr. Cosgrove that Mr. Mello decided not to proceed with a request for the grand jury to indict Mr. Kearney for allegedly wiretapping Mr. Scanlon. On information and belief, if Mr. Mello decided not to seek a wiretapping indictment after November 28, 2023, then he realized that the audio recording Ms. Peter gave to Detective Lieutenant Tully wasn't reliable evidence. There are no other logical reason for Mr. Mello to call 3 witnesses, introduce the recording, and introduce a hearsay report in support of the wiretapping indictment and not seek an indictment unless A, he realized that the evidence wasn't reliable, or B, he offered the evidence exclusively for the purpose of prejudicing Mr. Kearney before the grand jury deliberated on the submitted charges. As the legal advisor to the grand jury, Mr. Mello knew or should have known that he should have decided not to proceed with seeking an indictment for a serious crime before he severely prejudiced Mr. Kearney by calling witnesses, playing a recording, and twice instructing the grand jury on the elements of and once on the punishment associated with the uncharged wiretapping allegations. As the legal advisor for the grand jury, Mr. Mello knew or should have known that if he decided not to seek Mr. Kearney's indictment for wiretapping after he presented voluminous evidence in support of that uncharged crime, at a minimum, he was obligated to instruct the grand jury that A, it must disregard all evidence in support of the uncharged bad act, B, it may not consider the evidence of proof of Mr. Kearney's bad character. C, it must disregard all legal instructions provided about the charge, including any possible prison sentence. And D, it may not consider any of the evidence presented on November 28, 2023 in considering the submitted charges. Mr. Mello didn't provide any of these instructions. Without more, Mr. Mello's presentation of irrelevant and prejudicial evidence of an uncharged bad act that bore no relationship to the charges before the grand jury impaired the integrity of the grand jury proceedings. See Commonwealth v. Brown. Intentional admission of prior bad acts without curative instructions may impair integrity of grand jury proceedings. Most of the evidence Mr. Mello offered in support of charges that he actually presented for the grand jury's consideration consisted of what he and Tully knew were cherry-picked out of context snippets of Mr. Kearney's online content. The critical issues for the grand jury determination regarding the witness intimidation charges was Mr. Kearney's intent. Mr. Mello improperly expressed his unsworn opinion that Mr. Kearney intended to intimidate witnesses, December 20th, 2023, transcript page 89. Mr. Mello improperly elicited Tully's opinion that Mr. Kearney intended to intimidate witnesses, December 19th, transcript page 7, December 20th, transcript page 4. Mr. Mello improperly elicited from Ms. McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Ms. Nagel their opinions on Mr. Kearney's intent, December 5th, transcript page 33 to 32, 30 to 32 and 49. December 19th, transcript page 17. Mr. Mello and Tully deliberately misled the grand jury by giving it a false impression that Mr. Kearney named his episodes in a manner suggestive of his intent to intimidate witnesses. 14 times during the grand jury proceedings, Tully improperly testified that the grand jury exhibits were maintained in a folder titled Intent. Mr. Mello and Tully concealed from the grand jury that Tully, not Mr. Kearney, created and named the Intent folder, and that Tully, not Kearney, renamed the clips Tully edited from Kearney's actual episodes. Mello neither instructed the grand jury to disregard Tully's repeated reference to retrieving videos from the Intent folder, names nor told the grand jury that it was the exclusive fact founder on the question of Mr. Kearney's intent. After being peppered with improper opinions that Mr. Kearney intended to intimidate witnesses, the grand jury was left to speculate and likely incorrectly believe Mr. Kearney, not Tully, created an intent folder. If the grand jury knew that the intent folder, the episode names described to it, and the edited clips that became the grand jury exhibits all were created by Tully instead of Mr. Kearney, the probable impact of such evidence would have been substantially less. Either way, by repeatedly encouraging Mr. Tully to testify that the edited videos offered to prove Mr. Kearney's intent were maintained in a folder named Intent, Mr. Mello intentionally and improperly bolstered the distorted evidence because Tully's testimony was tantamount to additional expression of Mello's and Tully's opinion that Kearney's intent was to intimidate witnesses. Mello and Tully further deceived the grand jury by playing edits of Kearney's lengthy episodes and then deprived the grand jury from the complete and accurate context contained in his actual episodes. This sleight of hand dramatically misrepresented the context of the episodes and their names and deprived the grand jury of the right to the complete statement made by Kearney. See Commonwealth v. Mayfield. Failure to disclose known information may impair a grand jury proceedings. Odell, prosecution's introduction of inculpatory portions of statement distorted by the intentionally failure to include exculpatory portion of a statement impaired grand jury proceedings and required dismissal of indictment. Oh, and I don't know if Aidan has used all of the work that you people have done by watching videos, going in and finding intent and whatever he has said. But thank you all so much who have given time to go in and help disseminate all the videos, especially the ones that they have claimed he shows intent in those videos. I know a lot of them has been debunked by other statements made in the same video. Thank you. Is this today? Yes, today is today. It's Friday. All day today is going to be Friday. The cumulative impact of Mr. Mello's concealment of the actual title's length and full content of Mr. Kearney's episode deliberately kept the grand jury ignorant. We should have a poll. Polls are always good. Drives engagement. The cumulative impact of Mr. Mellow's concealment of the actual title, length, and full content of Mr. Kearney's episodes deliberately kept the grand jury ignorant of the truth. Kearney's mostly hour-long episodes were dedicated to subjects far different than the edits and names Miss Peter provided to Mellow and Tully, and included elements of comedy and satire. Mellow and Tully schemed to mislead the grand jury with evidence that Kearney's episode names were indicative of his criminal intent, even misled this court and Mr. Cosgrove. In sustaining a number of witness intimidation counts, the court, in its May 19, 2025 decision, understandably referenced the episode by the false name provided by Mr. Mellow and Tully in a manner suggesting it believed the names were created by Mr. Kearney and were relevant to its decision. In a July 29, 2025 filing, Mr. Cosgrove, also apparently unaware that Tully and Mellow distorted the evidence in reference to Mr. Kearney's intent, cited the aptly titled episode 616, Trying to Destroy Colin's Life, when in fact that episode is named Karen Reid Case, Commonwealth Tells More Lies About John O'Keefe's GPS Data. And these are the things that hopefully will make a difference, but it's Massachusetts, baby. But I love that Cosgrove is such an idiot boomer that he also, even though that the defense team have made him aware that the Commonwealth, no, the defense team has made him aware that they are using the wrong titles. He still uses them. But he was the guy who asked, "How do I get the internet to the courtroom?" Yeah, this is Judge Belesso's tomorrow. And I'm not a big fan. I'll say that. As detailed in the following chart, the Commonwealth engaged in pervasive misconduct by repeatedly misleading the grand jury about Mr. Kearney's episodes. And we get a chart. Episode 594, McCabe Residence. And then there's a grand jury testimony, transcript, sorry. And the duration of it and the actual title. So what they called, I'm not going to give you the timestamps. I'll just give you what they have changed it to and the actual name. Episode 594, McCabe Residence, is really Turtle Boy returns to Canton, door knocking, grilling public official, cops call on me. 585, confronting McCabe outside Norfolk Superior. McCabe's want to kill me. Sean McCabe isn't happy. Karen Reid speaks out. 619, need to go to McCabe's soccer game again. Karen Reid case, where's Michael Proctor? He's in Florida, getting rid of his racism. 623, Jen McCabe. Karen Reid case, breaking down the fraudulent charging docs on Turtle Boy. Can kick Colin Albert's ass. Kendra Lyra crash, Sean interview, Paul O'Keefe and Carl Dougal defense Canton murders. Call to Colin Albert. Amiri King wants to fight Turtle Boy. Canton updates, on the Bev Canon out of control. Trying to destroy Colin Albert's life. Karen Reid case, Commonwealth tell more lies about John O'Keefe's GPS data. 623, Colin Albert. Karen Reid case, breaking down the fraudulent charging docs on Turtle Boy. 590, call to Julie Albert. More Michael Proctor lies, making calls. 598, life as normal is over. Breaking, Karen Reid defense file motions to recuse Judge Canoni and oppose gag order. Impromptu live, Albert should be afraid. Impromptu live, Karen Reid's parents go on Boston 25 News and new bombshell information. Context is a little bit different. Kearney outside D&E 2. Looking for Jim Ferris, Chris Albert, and the Galvins in Canton. 580, call to Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor. 580, Elizabeth Proctor, dumbest wife ever. Brian Albert opposition motion. How not pathetic, but prophetic you were, because I stand by my man. 594, not my last trip to Canton. Turtle Boy returns to Canton, door knocking, grilling public official, cops called on me. 94, not my last trip to Canton. It's 2 times and 2 different time zones, and it's the same title. 615, Living Like Rats. Karen Reed case, attorney Bob Motter discusses Friday's hearing in confrontation in Canton. 615, not leaving second generation out of it. It's the same title. 82523, respond to D.A. Morrissey's statement. Impromptu live, drunken Lardo Michael Morrissey declares war on turtle riders. He has a way with titling his shows. They're long, but they're good. 598, life as normal is over. That's the same title as before. 598, time to hit the gas. Same title as before. 602, enjoying watching witness squirm. 602, pre-vacation show. Hoopasaurus, Jill Daniels, Carl Dougal, Taillight Mystery, Liz Proctor. 604, I do not want this to go to trial. Colin Albert drops out of school. Brian Higgins flipping. Is the end near? No, it's not. 616, trying to destroy Colin Albert's life. We have had that mentioned before. Karen Reed's case, Commonwealth tell more lies about John O'Keefe's GPS data. 618, no right to live peacefully. 618, Karen Reed case, Detective Bukaki intimidates witnesses. Chris Albert seeks protection order. 598, I got pictures of you. That's again the motion to recuse. 624, encourage protest. 624, Karen Reed case, after David Show's bathroom video was PC to take journalist phones. Impromptu live, 8723, Albert should be afraid. Impromptu live, Karen Reed's parent go on Boston 25. Rolling rally, don't feel bad for O'Keefe. Canton, the justice for Karen Reed on John O'Keefe's rolling rally. 594, I'm not fucking around. Turtle Boy returns to Canton. The above chart and Mr. Mello's conduct on December 20th, immediately before he sought Mr. Kearney's indictment, best demonstrate how he repeatedly impaired the integrity of the grand jury proceedings and prejudiced Mr. Kearney by misleading the grand jury about the evidence of Mr. Kearney's intent. Prior to December 20th, 2023, Mr. Mello already had spent an extraordinary amount of time and effort introducing inflammatory and irrelevant evidence and instructions related to an uncharged bad act. Prior to December 20th, 2023, Tully already had falsely and improperly testified about the location, names, length, and content of at least 17 edits of Mr. Kearney's episodes. Prior to December 20th, 2023, Mr. Mello already had bolstered his improper presentation of evidence by eliciting Tully's affirmative statement that these incidents, video previously played, were all attempts to intimidate these witnesses. How does he... How would Aidan know that the witness... That's another question. How can Aidan make a video on YouTube? I'm making a video right now. How can I intend to intimidate any of these witnesses? Because there is a block button on YouTube, kind of like it was stated in the restraining order battle last week or whenever it was. They can just block me on YouTube. So how can my intent making this video today be to intimidate someone? I don't think any of the McAlberts ever watch my show. So it's a really bad way of trying to witness intimidate someone by just making a YouTube video. As long as you're not sending the link to them and trying to make them watch it, how can his intent be to intimidate them? That's another question. Because how will you prove intent? Because Aidan makes videos every 3 days. He makes a video. So how can his intent by making the video be that specifically these people watch them? They tried to go after Melanie because she makes videos about them. Yeah, they probably went after as many of us as they could. The foreskins have struck 5 of us with false copyright claims because we made fun of them. Always good to report people that make fun of you. But it's Aidan doesn't know any of these people watch. So if his intent by making any of these videos, no matter if they were titled what he claims, he must have had an expectation they were watching his show, and then he could intimidate them. And again, if you go in and watch Aidan's show, you cannot, after the fact, come out and say, well, he's trying to intimidate me by saying bad things about me on the interwebs. You can just turn off, you can block every YouTube channel. There's no YouTube channel you cannot block. Trust me. Well, no, I don't think that's a true statement. There's no YouTuber you cannot block. There's no TwitSwat user you cannot block. I don't think you can block specific YouTube channels, but if you go in, hit the 3 little dots, you can say, don't recommend this channel. You won't see this channel. So how can Aidan intend for them to watch his videos? Why would he expect that they would be watching his videos so his words could intimidate them? I just cannot imagine his legal bills. No, that's insane. Aidan has had a show and a website for what? Almost a decade before this. It's a good point. Yeah, but that's, again, I can make a show in an hour. I make a show where I'm going to shit all over Olivia. I'm going to make the most outrageous statements about her. But I don't have an expectation she watch all of my videos. So if my intent was to intimidate her, wouldn't I do it in some way where I knew it would be? Because Olivia can just say, I don't want to watch that idiot. If the show title is Fuck Colin Albert and he doesn't watch it, how is he being intimidated? Hey, Slime Raiders. I, again, didn't get a notification. You can also hide channels. Yeah. So again, it's really, really Cat Raid. Hey, Cat Raiders. Wouldn't intent require direct contact? In my opinion, yes. Unless he tells people, kind of like Krusty Panties, who will go on TwitSwat and tell people to share it and stuff like that so it'll pop in Aidan's feed. I don't know if but how it just struck me after what persistent, relentless, direct contact of that would intend to reach them. Yeah, but we've been going over this for 2 years, and it just hit me now that there's no way Aidan's intent by just making a YouTube video in any way. It's the same as yelling outside of the D&E pizza. If they weren't illegally recording the audio on what happened on the outside, he cannot witness intimidate you. Unless he was holding up a sign saying, I'm coming for you. I'm going to do something to you. How can you witness intimidate? It's not Krusty Panties stopping in her rundown car outside of a courthouse yelling at a person she's not allowed to yell at. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but it just struck me. How the hell can he intend for them to watch his videos? Because witness intimidation is a personal. It cannot be because the grocery worker down at the Piggly Wiggly have seen Aidan's video and then looks weird at Jen McCabe. That's not his. Can someone who's smarter than me give me an explanation on this one? Because I all of a sudden I have a brain bleed over what the hell is this about? Well, I don't know. It's never been mentioned before. Maybe it's not maybe it's not how it should. Maybe it's okay. I don't know. I just find it really weird because they can just block him. There's no reason for Jen McCabe to ever watch Dr. Turtleboy. She should. He has some great shows. But there's no expectation that she watches all his intimidation. If his intent was to intimidate them from testifying, wouldn't it be done directly and privately? Making YouTube videos alone shows no intent to reach or affect the witness. And again, saying do the right thing. That's the same Brian Cox told Deaver. Did Brian Cox witness intimidate Deaver? But that's their choice. If you choose to go watch him, how can his intent be that you should be intimidated? Because just because you are a paying member of my channel, I have way more paying members than I have daily viewers. I can make whatever show I want, but I have no expectation that Free the First Amendment will watch all of my videos and be intimidated by what I'm saying. I need someone who's smarter than me. December 19, 2023, transcript page 7, emphasize added. On December 20th, 2023, Mello bolstered his previous misconduct with his unsworn opinion that Tully's sworn opinion by eliciting Tully's agreement with him that edited exhibits depicted Aidan Kearney making some comments about his intention with respect to his activities. Again, they can go in and say, oh, Aidan says he's going to go out and harass them. And that can prove that he had an intent to harass the witness and intimidate the witnesses. But that's not what they're ruling on. I don't know. I'm not smart. December 20th, 2023, transcript page 4. Immediately following this improper marshalling and bolstering of the edited evidence, Mr. Mello instructed Tully to play the videos which he just told the grand jury he and Tully believed proved Mr. Kearney's intent. Tully proceeded to play a series of videos which he again improbably testified came from the intent folder. As they did 17 times previously over the past 3 sessions, Mello and Tully intentionally misrepresented the names of Kearney's episodes to make them sound consistent with what they told the grand jury was Mr. Kearney's criminal intent, and then Tully played out of context cherry-picked snippets of while Mello deprived the grand jury of the full context and accurate names of Kearney's episodes. Tully matter-of-factly falsely swore that among Kearney's episodes from the intent folder were episodes he prejudicially named, but the grand jury was led to believe Mr. Kearney named, such as enjoying watching witnesses squirm, trying to destroy Colin's life, and no right to live peacefully. December 20th, 2023, transcript page 5 and 6. As if Mello and Tully's conduct already wasn't bad enough, they exacerbated the prejudice to Mr. Kearney by further bolstering the evidence and their improper opinions of it by replaying edited videos and repeating their false names for videos, even though they already had been presented to the grand jury. Specifically, on December 20th, 2023, Mr. Mello replayed the following misnamed and misleading episodes. 616, trying to destroy Colin Albert's life. 598, life as normal is over. Impromptu live 8723, Albert should be afraid. No members of the O'Keefe family testified before the grand jury. Mello didn't seek Kearney's indictment for the alleged witness intimidation of any members of the O'Keefe family. Tully testified that the final video played in the grand jury presentation 58 seconds in length, came from the intent folder and was entitled Rolling Rally Don't Feel Bad for the O'Keefes, December 20th, 2023. Tully explained that the final video name referenced to the parents and family of John O'Keefe. The length of the actual video made by Kearney was 2 hours and 8 minutes and 13 seconds. The actual title of the video made by Mr. Kearney was Canton, the Justice for Karen Reed and John O'Keefe Rolling Rally. As the title and content of the actual video made by Mr. Kearney demonstrate, the grand jury was misled and deprived of evidence that in addition to Ms. Reed, Mr. Kearney stated he was seeking justice for Mr. O'Keefe. The small clip of misnamed video was irrelevant to the charges before the grand jury because it wasn't offered in support of allegation that Mr. Kearney had intimidated anyone from Mr. O'Keefe's family. Mr. Kearney's brief discussion of the O'Keefe centers on his frustration that they had been misled about who was responsible of Mr. O'Keefe's death and the impact their belief had on Ms. Reed. The final clip constitutes another example of Mr. Mellow's improperly introducing uncharged bad act evidence to prejudice Mr. Kearney and to appeal to emotions of the grand jury. Mr. Mellow didn't instruct the grand jury on the purported relevance of the final edited exhibit or caution the grand jury to limit its deliberation to relevant evidence and make sure that sympathy for Mr. O'Keefe or his family didn't influence the evaluation of the evidence. At the conclusion of Tully's December 20th testimony, just as he did immediately before Tully testified, Mr. Mellow informed the grand jury that he had presented it with sufficient proof of Mr. Kearney's intent to intimidate witnesses. Now, to prove intent, the Commonwealth has to prove the purpose or objective of any behavior of the defendant, which would be Mr. Kearney. Obviously, it is impossible to look directly into his mind, but we believe that evidence has been presented that you would allow presented to you that would allow you to make that determination. December 20th, page 89, emphasis added. Mellow asked Tully if the videos depicted Mr. Kearney making comments about his intention. December 19th, transcript, page 7. Mr. Mellow asked Tully if it's your contention that incidents and video clips were all attempts to intimidate these witnesses, to which Tully replied, yes. Again, is it the video that shows that he intends to go out and harass them, or is it the videos that are attempts to intimidate the witnesses? Because that's two very different things. Because you can gather his intent if he sits on the videos and talks about, I'm going to the baseball game and I'm going to do this and that and this and that. Then you can glean what his intent is. But then you can't prove. Then you can't say that it's the video that is meant as the intimidation. Can you? Throughout the grand jury proceedings, Mr. Mellow engaged in other improper conduct. Footnote 20th. Ms. McCabe testified that she received threatening Facebook messages from Mr. Kearney and others. She said that she provided them to the Commonwealth. She described messages which physically threatened her and others, which included pictures of her daughter, redacted. See December 5th, 2023 transcript, page 35-36. None of these messages was presented to the grand jury, and to this day, they haven't been disclosed to the defense. Maybe because they don't exist. That combined with the above-cited examples of the cumulative impact of impairing the integrity of the grand jury proceeds, including allowing grand jurors with a strong opinion about Mr. Kearney to decide for themselves whether they felt uncomfortable and telling them that they are welcome to stay instead of instructing them to recuse themselves from this matter. Footnote. A grand juror indicated that she knew Ms. Nagel. Mr. Mellow, who already improperly opined that Ms. Nagel was a victim of intimidation, tried to excuse the grand juror for Ms. Nagel's testimony only. Remarkably, the grand juror had to instruct Mr. Mellow that it was not appropriate for her to vote on any counts, and that she needed to be excused. December 19th, transcript, page 4. Informing the grand juror of sentencing possibility for charged and uncharged crimes, November 28, transcript page 89, December 5th, page 16-17. Repeatedly asking witnesses their opinion on Mr. Kearney's intent and what other witnesses knew or believed, November 28, page 30th, December 5th, page 30 to 33, 49, December 14, page 27, 28, December 19th, page 7, 17, December 7th, page 4. Expressing confidence that referring to Mr. Kearney's followers as his minions, December 19th, transcript page 13. Expressing confidence that the grand jury will find a witness to be the victim of intimidation, December 19th, transcript page 3. The defense specific demands for evidence. On February 23, 2024, the defense demanded from Mr. Mello, among other things, statements made by possible witnesses to Tully, all statements between or among any civilian witnesses, police, or prosecutors, and materials subject to disclosure under Rule 14, including report statements and videos. On March 19th, 2024, the defense informed the Commonwealth that Mr. Mello's response to the February 23, 2024 demand was inadequate and that he had failed to disclose all automatic discovery. On April 23, 2024, Mr. Mello was directed by the court to disclose all automatic discovery under Rule 14 by May 8th. Mr. Mello didn't comply with the May 8th, 2024 deadline to disclose all discovery to the defense. Mr. Mello's failure to comply with the court-ordered deadline wasn't the first time he has neglected important legal matters. He has been disciplined for neglecting at least 3 matters. In 2016, he was publicly remanded for performing very little work of substance and a failure to communicate with his client. He was further reprimanded in a second matter due to his professional incompetence in failing to file paperwork he was legally required to do in connection with his criminal client's appeal. In 2016, he was admonished for similar misconduct for failing to prosecute a client's case resulting in its dismissal and for failing to communicate with his client. D.A. Morrissey must have known or should have known about Mr. Mello's documented failures to comply with his professional obligations before he engaged him to prosecute Mr. Kearney at substantial taxpayer expenses. Sorry, 2 hours of reading, it takes its toll. On information and belief, around the time of the court issued the discovery deadline, Mr. Cosgrove joined the prosecution team. On May 8th, Mr. Cosgrove, to his credit, acknowledged that Mr. Mello impeded progress of discovery. He provided some discovery to the defense, although none of it related to Ms. Peters' interaction with Mr. Mello or Tully. On July 10th, 2024, in response to the defense March 19th, 2024 demand, Mr. Cosgrove stated that the Commonwealth would provide all evidence required under Rule 14 and recognized its obligation to provide exculpatory evidence. Beginning of the fall of 24, the defense made a series of specific demands, favorable and discoverable evidence pursuant to Brady, Giglio, and Rule 14. Many of these specific demands sought evidence related to Ms. Peters' relationship with the Commonwealth. Until July 25, the Commonwealth did not disclose any evidence responsive to the defense demands for evidence related to Ms. Peters' relationship with the Commonwealth, including her involvement in the investigations against Mr. Kearney. Although the Commonwealth has provided some materials related to Ms. Peters, their production to date has been woefully inadequate. The Commonwealth has represented that certain evidence provided by Ms. Peters to Mello and Tully in 23 is no longer in their possession, custody, and control, and has since been deleted on information and belief by Ms. Peters. Although the undisclosed evidence indisputably was in their possession, custody, and control, the Commonwealth regrettably has taken the position that they are not obligated to disclose this evidence because it's no longer in its possession, custody, and control. The court should soundly reject this weak justification for the Commonwealth's failure to preserve and provide exculpatory and or discoverable evidence to the defense. See Commonwealth v. Woodward. On September 12, 2024, I sent a specific demand to Messrs. Cosgrove and Mello, in which the defense sought from the Commonwealth any information in their possession, custody, or control that tended to impair the credibility of any possible witnesses against Mr. Kearney, and all promises, rewards, and inducements made to any possible witnesses against Mr. Kearney. This demand included information related to Ms. Peters and Tully. In this demand, I detailed Ms. Peters' prominent role in a conspiracy created in December 23, the purpose of which was to lure Ms. Kearney into being charged with witness intimidation of Ms. Kearney. After Tully served her with a grand jury summons issued by Mr. Mello. Mr. Mello's direct involvement in this scheme was so great that it resulted in the court disqualifying him from prosecuting the 2024 indictments, in which Ms. Kearney is the alleged victim. Ms. Kearney has since filed lawsuits against Mr. Cosgrove and Tully for what she alleges are their improper actions in the 2024 indictment, including intentionally causing her emotionally harm. She also sent a demand letter to DA Morrissey in which she strongly implied her intent to sue the DA for at least $50,000 unless she is financially compensated soon. In addition to further sabotaging her own credibility, Ms. Kearney virtually unprecedented scorched earth blame everyone legal maneuvers has created an irreconcilable conflict that requires Mr. Cosgrove and Tully's immediate disqualification from the 2024 indictments and possibly the 2023 indictments. I informed the DA that an extraction report from Ms. Kearney's cellular phone provided to the defense appeared to have scrubbed communication from Ms. Peter, Mello, Tully after Mr. Kearney and Peters discussed blank. The Commonwealth didn't respond to this specific demand for evidence. On October 8, 2024, I sent Mrs. Cosgrove and Mello another specific demand. This detailed 15-page demand was entirely devoted to production of exculpatory and discoverable evidence related to Ms. Peters, including all evidence and information in whatever form Ms. Peter furnished to the Commonwealth and or MSP involving the investigation or prosecution of Mr. Kearney, any records of Ms. Peters' communication with the Commonwealth and MSP between October 1, 2023 and the present, and any documentation or memorization of statements made by Ms. Peter to the Commonwealth and MSP regarding Mr. Kearney in any form, including but not limited to written reports, notes, emails, text messages, audio, or video recordings. The Commonwealth didn't respond to this specific demand for evidence. On October 17, 2027, I sent Mr. Cosgrove another specific demand for exculpatory and discoverable evidence. In this demand, much of which related to a recent discovery that DA Morrissey improperly conducted official public business from his personal email account, I again alerted the Commonwealth to Ms. Peters' direct involvement in the case. Yet again, the Commonwealth didn't respond to this specific demand for evidence. On December 16th, Mr. Mello forwarded some communication between himself and Ms. Peter to Mr. Cosgrove. Notwithstanding our prior demands, Mr. Cosgrove didn't supply this evidence to the defense until July 7th, 2025, almost 7 months after he received it. As explained Supra 3237, the ultimately disclosed communications between and among Ms. Peter, Mello, and Tully is critical to the instant motions, and if it has been disclosed promptly, would have been included in support of the defense's first motion to dismiss the indictment. On March 29, 2025, I sent Mr. Cosgrove another specific demand for evidence related to the Commonwealth's relationship with Ms. Peter. Once again, I demanded any evidence, including but not limited to Ms. Peters' involvement in Mr. Kearney's case, such as evidence of interaction and communications, including their substance, between and among Ms. Peter and the Kearney Reed prosecution teams, which included Mr. Mello, Tully, Bukaki, Proctor, Fanning, among others. I informed Mr. Cosgrove that it had been more than 5 months since our first specific demand and that the Commonwealth still hasn't disclosed any information or materials in response to our demands. I again provided detailed facts which established there was no doubt that the Commonwealth has in possession, custody, or control undisclosed material related to its relationship with Ms. Peter. On July 7, 2025, the Commonwealth disclosed some evidence related to Ms. Peter, including the messages forwarded by Mr. Mello to Mr. Cosgrove on December 16th, and a few emails Ms. Peter sent Tully without his response. The Commonwealth represented it turned over 4,727 pages of Detective Tully's emails when in fact more than 4,000 of those pages were blank. On July 12, I wrote Mr. Cosgrove once again making a specific demand for all evidence related to Ms. Peter. Since July 12, 2025, the Commonwealth has provided some additional Peter evidence, including a file containing the previously blank Tully emails, which alleging that some of the evidence is no longer in the possession, custody, and control. On August 13, 2025, Mr. Cosgrove represented to the court that Tully has a practice of not clicking on unsolicited links emailed to him, but instead might go himself and look for it online. Mr. Cosgrove further stated that Tully did not review any material sent to him by Peter, which were introduced before the grand jury. For example, Mr. Kearney's YouTube presentation were introduced to the grand jury. All of those things that Tully found himself online. He may have been pointed to them by Peter, but he may have been pointed to them by multiple sources, but he never clicked on whatever it was that was sent. So these were never assessed in effect by the Commonwealth. If the links are now dead, we never seen them. The links are presumably dead because whoever sent them took them off the internet. If Tully had clicked on the link, it would have taken him somewhere, probably would, but he didn't. Trust me, bro. Just like your mom never ever hit that thing that put a spam thing on her computer. There's strong reason to doubt the truthfulness of Tully's claim to Cosgrove. See Exhibit AABB, Miss Peter forward recording to MSP in private link. November 28, 2023, transcript page 819. Tully swore that she provided the audio recording to him in a private link. After Tully, blank, Bukaki informed Tully and others that he already provided blank to ADA Lally. Even if Tully didn't personally review any links sent to him by Miss Peters, Mr. Cosgrove's representation that the Commonwealth in effect never accessed the links provided to them by Miss Peters ignores the indisputable proof that Mr. Mello accessed the material Miss Peter provided to him. Once the links were sent by Miss Peter and received by any agents of the Commonwealth in 2023, that evidence was in the Commonwealth's possession, custody, and control, and it was obligated to disclose the evidence to the defense under Brady, Giglio, and the pre-existing Rule 14 requiring disclosure of any written or recorded statements and the substance of any oral statements made by the defendant in prosecution's possession, custody, and control, persons under their direction and control, or persons who have participated in investigating or evaluating the case or have reported to the prosecution no later than May 8, 2024, when the court ordered all automatic discovery to be disclosed to the defense. Woo! Mr. Mello is a material defense witness. The court already has disqualified Mr. Mello from Kearney's 2024 indictments because he made himself a material defense witness. Mr. Mello's interaction and communications with Tully and Peter and his conduct before the grand jury has made him an essential defense witness. Mello's direct advocacy in seeking to have criminal charges lodged against other individuals while acting as both an advocate for witness Chris Albert and in his official capacity as Mr. Kearney's prosecutor creates an actual conflict of interest, making him a material witness and compels his disqualification. On November 5th, 2023, weeks after Mr. Kearney had been arrested, Mr. Mello called the police on behalf of Chris Albert, who already was a named witness against Mr. Kearney, to report that people were picketing Mr. Albert across the street from his Canton pizza shop. In his call to the police, Mr. Mello initially identified himself as prosecutor with the Norfolk DA's office. He immediately asked to speak to the supervising sergeant. Mr. Mello reported a protest occurring near Mr. Albert's pizza shop and requested that a police car respond to make sure that they are not intimidating. After Mr. Mello was asked to confirm his identity, he probably disclosed that he was not a Norfolk County prosecutor, but a special prosecutor on Aidan Kearney. Not surprisingly, after hanging up with Mr. Mello, the officer who took the call probably noted to a fellow officer, well, they can protest. An officer called Mr. Mello back and told him that the incident amounted to nothing more than 4 people holding signs across the street from D&E Pizza who weren't impeding traffic. The officer noted it seemed kind of mellow. It's a small group now. Undeterred from his advocacy for Mr. Albert, Mr. Mello asked the sergeant to look at section 268.13a. After reviewing the witness intimidation statute, the sergeant asked Mr. Mello what he was thinking of doing. Mr. Mello urged the Canton police to either charge or disperse them because they met every single requirement of that statute. According to Mr. Mello, these protesters were certainly there to influence Mr. Albert or whatever else the statute states. They aren't there for any other reasons. Mr. Mello's conduct and his credibility will be key issues at trial, and it would therefore be improper for him to advocate for the Commonwealth as an unsworn witness. Mr. Mello must be disqualified pursuant to the witness advocate rule as codified in Rule 3.7, which mandates that a lawyer shall not act as an advocate at a trial in which the lawyer is likely to be a necessary witness. Lawyers must be disqualified if representing would taint the legal system or the trial. The need for an evidentiary hearing. The defense has provided substantial evidence in support of our motions that, at a minimum, raises substantial material questions of fact that the court must resolve before determining the defense motions. With respect to the motion to dismiss the indictments due to the prosecution's impairment of the integrity of the grand jury proceedings, the defense, at minimum, has raised material questions of fact regarding why the Commonwealth presented the grand jury with uncharged evidence related to wiretapping of Mr. Scanlon, and whether they did so for the purpose of seeking an indictment on the charged offenses. Whether Tully or someone else created and or provided the evidence used before the grand jury, why he created and edited videos, why he created the intent folder, why he changed the name of Mr. Kearney's episodes, and whether Mr. Mello was aware of any of this and whether they discussed it in advance of the grand jury presentation. Why Mr. Mello didn't enter Mr. Kearney's complete episodes into evidence. Why, if Mr. Mello knew the actual name, length, and content of Mr. Kearney's episodes, did Mr. Mello elicit testimony from Tully in the manner he did? What evidence does Ms. Peter provide to the Commonwealth, to whom she provided it, who reviewed it, and did anyone vet the authenticity and reliability, and if so, when? What is the complete substance and nature of communications between Tully, Mello, and Ms. Peters regarding Tully's claim that he never reviewed any links she sent them? Did Mello, Tully, and any other agents of the Commonwealth review, preserve, disclose, or delete evidence provided by Ms. Peters? Did Ms. Peters delete or destroy evidence? And whether any or all of the answers to the above material facts establish that the Commonwealth misled the grand jury by intentionally or recklessly representing false and misleading evidence, or in any other matter that impaired the integrity of the grand jury proceedings for the purpose of securing Mr. Kearney's indictment. With respect to the motion to dismiss the indictments for the prosecution's failure to provide exculpatory and or discoverable evidence, the defense at minimum has raised material questions of facts regarding what efforts, if any, the Commonwealth made to promptly respond to numerous specific defense demands, including inquiries made with respect to Ms. Peters and others. Why did it take years for the Commonwealth to disclose exculpatory evidence and automatic discovery? An inventory of all evidence Ms. Peter provided to the Commonwealth, including to whom she sent it, and what evidence was preserved, disclosed, lost, or deleted. Whether evidence provided by Ms. Peter was edited or tampered with by her or anyone else. Whether any deletions, non-disclosures, and or ultimately disclosures of evidence was intentional. Why were communications between and among Mr. Mello, Tully, Peters from September 23 through early 24 disclosed by Mr. Mello month after defense-specific demand, and why did Mr. Cosgrove fail to disclose them for another 7 months? And why has the Commonwealth failed to disclose alleged written communication that Ms. McCabe has sworn she provided to the Commonwealth? With respect to the defense motion to disqualify Mr. Mello, the defense at minimum has raised material questions of fact regarding Mr. Mello's knowledge of Ms. Peters' dubious credibility, including her bias against Mr. Kearney, her motive to falsely accuse him, and her history of forging evidence against Mr. Kearney. Mr. Mello's communication with Ms. Peter regarding her input and production of evidence, including his knowledge of whether Tully reviewed evidence provided by Ms. Peter. Mr. Mello's knowledge about how he and D.L. Tully prepped for the grand jury, whether they discussed how Tully was going to describe Kearney's episodes, and whether Mr. Mello and Tully intentionally misled the grand jury. Mr. Mello's knowledge of whether Tully, Peter, or anyone else edited clips and changed the name of Kearney's episodes prior to the grand jury presentation. Wherefore, as alleged herein and detailed in the accompanying memorandum of law, the defense requests dismissal of the indictments and the disqualification of Mr. Mello or in the alternative, an evidentiary hearing on our motions and any other proper relief deemed just and proper by the court. It truly is a mega motion. Phew. Let's look at what you think in the poll. Will this be dismissed? It's Massachusetts, baby. Heck no. 79%. I tend to agree with you. This we will get the OG Cosgrove. He will be spinning a yarn about, well, we did and we could, and I don't know. And Mr. Mello has been sick, and I have tried my best, and I really tried, and I tried really hard, and we didn't really do anything, and they didn't touch any links, and they didn't know anything. And I'm just afraid that the judge is going to do what he always does: take Mr. Cosgrove's word for it, and then just, let's just move on. It's so improper that they are using Krusty in any connection to this case. And I know Krusty is sitting on the twit constantly and talking about she never ever talked to anyone and she never did anything and she's never. But that's not true, because we know that there were emails sent that they claim they didn't open, but still, she did communicate, because sending an email is a form of communication, even though it might not have been opened. You were in communication with the MSP and the Norfolk District District Attorney's Office. Sorry, reading for so long really rumbles the brain. Thank you, Buck. Will you cover Monday, or will it just be another nothing burger? No, this, if we can get the links to it, I'll be covering it, because I don't think this will be a nothing burger. I think this will be a proper hearing where, because they can read the civil stuff, that's just a nothing burger. But normally these hearings are quite good. And I know some people will not like me saying this, but I hope that it's Bederow who will do most of the talking, because I'm just, he's more cutthroat than Bradel. And I don't know if it's a, hey, let's all be friends kind of mindset Bradel has, because I don't feel he pushes it hard enough, that he says, but judge, you gotta make a ruling on this. You gotta see this. It's always just, okay, well, we'll see you in 3 months. Yeah. Her transformation into the mouthpiece is complete. She was the one that was willing to play ball at this point. Her little hit piece on Lucky confirmed that. Yeah, she will do what. Krusty is so far up the McAlbert's ass that she will do whatever. Again, because she wants Aidan. She can't have Aidan, so she will destroy Aidan. And she doesn't give a shit about who else she has to destroy, as long as she can get to Aidan. And it's disgusting, but Krusty is a disgusting human being. So she will do whatever she can to ruin these people's lives, as long as she just gets to ruin Aidan's life. But I hope she's getting her 30 pieces of silver. I hope they pay for her Ozempic. She had a public defender when she was in court 2 days ago, so she's not making a lot of money out of this, unless she's hiding the money. But again, I believe the reasonable thing to do would be to dismiss these charges. I don't ever want to see Aidan inside a courtroom again. I hope Monday will be his last day. It won't, but I hope so, because there is not enough food on this to feed a bird, as we say in Denmark. It's the McAlbert's pressuring the DA's office to put charges on this guy in an attempt to destroy Karen Reed's criminal case because they knew they didn't have a criminal case either. And this should be thrown out. There's no doubt about it. There's no witness intimidation in yelling "cop killer" after Jen McCabe. If it's a witness intimidation to yell "cop killer," then the fucking foreskins, crusty panties, twisted tragedies, Plevin under whatever name he's using on the internet, all the people who keep saying daily that Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe. Karen Reed is the only person on the planet who can say, I did not kill John O'Keefe, because she's been found innocent. I could have killed John O'Keefe. You could have killed John O'Keefe. We don't know. We just know that the only person who has been tried twice and found innocent is Karen Reed. Karen Reed is being harassed daily by all these fuckfaces calling her a killer. There's an ongoing case between where Karen Reed and Aidan is being charged together for conspiracy to intimidate witnesses. By calling Karen a killer every day, are they intimidating a witness in a case? Because that's what they claim Aidan did by calling Jen McCabe a cop killer. Why aren't the foreskins being served? Why isn't Krusty Panties? Why isn't all of these idiots who call her a killer, why are they not being thrown? Because it doesn't hold water when you look at it. This is some kind of payout to the McAlberts, done by a shitty DA's office. It's Canton, baby. Again, why did Brian Higgins, who doesn't work there, why did he have an office on the police station? Because he was part of the Good Old Boys Club. These people are, you kiss my ass, I kiss your ass all the way through. Is it true Lally's got to appear for the Miles King case after ignoring it at all this time? He hasn't ignored it. He hasn't been called back. He has to appear if he's called to testify, or unless he can be held in contempt of court. Like that YouTuber who doesn't want to sit for a deposition in the Murdoch case. She got slapped with $273,000, I think, in fines. He has to be there. When you're called, if you get a witness summons and you don't show up, yeah, you can be in a lot of trouble. So yes, he will be there for that hearing. It was Proctor who didn't show up because he was on vacation. No, and that's what that's the best evidence that the charge against Aidan is bullshit, because there is people out there right now calling Karen Reed a killer. So they should charge her. They should charge them as well, but they don't. Ipso facto, they don't give a shit about the witness intimidation standard, only if it's the McAlberts. I believe it's Judge Belsos, or whatever his name is. Well, Doolin is that's the. I can't keep all these. I need yeah. No, there hasn't been any rulings so far I've seen. I put way more weight on Hickey creeping around Canton PD footage than I do the Sallyport video. I said it. Yeah, there was no reason. And again, Higgins lied about what he did at the Canton PD station that night, because the video evidence showed he wasn't there to move trucks so they could clean the tarmac the next day. Yada yada yada. No, he was moving stuff around. He was going inside, and he had no explanation for any of it. Brian Higgins is way more complicit in something. I cannot tell you what it is. But again, he claimed he'd been drinking all day. He should be fired as a DEA officer or ATF or whatever it is he is, because that guy was drunk driving. He admitted to be drunk driving. He said he had multiple gingers. He should be fired. All these fucking assholes should be taken off the job. But nothing happens. He lied in court about what he did that night. Nothing happens. No, not every one of them lied. I don't believe that. But I do believe that the main players lied. Again, the bot dial, absolutely insane that anyone would come up with that explanation. We bot dialed back and forth. No, you didn't. I was having sex with my wife while I was bot dialing. We keep our phones in our bed when we're having sex. No, you don't. When you've been married as long as they have, it's a special occasion. It's not the, hey, honey, you're looking hot tonight. You're not scrolling through Instagram and then all of a sudden you're feeling Coco's cold little hand on your tool. Doesn't happen when they've been married for this long. Of course, they weren't rolling around on top of their phones, bot dialing while having sex. Anyone knows that's a lie. How would they even open, unless their faces look like their ass? How the hell would they bot dial? I can sometimes open up my phone accidentally, but I don't think I have done a bot dial on the last 2 phones I've had. No, because again, you don't open your phone and then it's not like, okay, I'm pressing 1, that's speed dial to Brian Higgins because he's my main squeeze. I have to open my phone, which is either swiping up or hitting the button on the side. Then I either have to punch in my code, put my thumb on it, or have face recognition to open up. Then I have to open the phone app. Then I have to hit the contact and hit dial. None of us, since we got smartphones, can do that 3 times in a row. Look in the mirror. That's how you bot can open your phone. Yeah, they answered and hung up too because they were having sex on top of their phones. But again, it makes no sense. No reasonable person believes that story. Well, it's really I'm not sure that he was, every time he's out in public he does this. Oh, I'm gonna make a call. I had to pull my pants down, and then because I have this butterfly tattoo on my right ass cheek. I butt dialed my Facebook chat, but not closing my phone before putting it in my pocket, but not 3 times in a row. No, and you didn't pick up your call with your bot either. Do you think Tully would be called to testify? I just read Tully's name probably 200 times. Yes, Tully will be called to testify. He's the main witness in this case. So, of course he will. That's why he's mentioned Mello Tully is the conspiracy to get these indictments through the grand jury. He will be there testifying about his contact with the McAlberts, his contacts with crusty panties, why he changed the video titles, why he didn't show them in context. All of this will be Tully's. He will be called for that, and again, he's the lead investigator. He should be called by the state to tell them why he saw it, and he reached the conclusion that this was witness intimidation. So yes, Tully, of course, will be a witness. Bukaki will potentially be a witness. Proctor will potentially be a witness, but I'm not 100% sure. But Tully will definitely be a witness in this case. Oh. I don't know about that. I never used Live 360. Some people say you can set it to give alarms when you're in an area and blah blah blah, but I have no idea what it. You have to find someone who knows about Live 360. I don't know what it's about. But that was 3 hours of a long motion reading. I'll be hanging out with my family tomorrow, so I won't be on Friday Night Live tonight. I probably won't stream tomorrow. Sunday, I think I've said yes to go on 2 different shows, so you'll probably catch me there. Other than that, go out and have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see Monday what happens. I hope that they just dismiss the freak out of this, but sadly, probably not going to happen. But we can always hope that finally one of these judges will do the right thing.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did. Everybody